Hailing frequencies are open. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Clear Skies, our Star Trek Adventures live play. I'm Eric Campbell, your storyteller for the evening. As per usual, this is the Stream Punks, my group here, the Stream Punks. Hello, everyone. It's good to see everybody. I am currently looking at my notes here because there's a couple of announcements that we have to get off before the show begins. The one that I've got in all caps that I'm super stupid excited for is apparently there's a Call of Cthulhu game coming up with the old Weave crowd. And I want to know about it, Gina, because I found out about this on Twitter. I want you to tell me about it.
Oh, hi. We're throwing the announcements at me. Okay, I don't even have to raise my hand.
Yeah.
The ladies of TBD RPG are coming back together for a game on Becca's channel. We're playing Call of Cthulhu, and I have been assured in the email, you better be ready because I'm going to try to kill you.
Excellent.
So,
is Becca running it?
Yes, Becca is
Excellent.
running. And this will be my first horror game, and I'm terrified, so check the socials. And watch that game this Wednesday.
Oh, Gina's got to play Alien with us. Gina's got to play Alien with us at some point. Okay. Good to know. I'm making that a note. That's awesome. It's going to be great. The last time I played a Cthulhu game was actually with Becca and Whitney when we did Xander, when we did our Trail of Cthulhu one shot. They made it out alive. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Xander not so much. Xander and Blythe not so much. Spoilers. But hey, you guys weren't killed by tentacled monster creatures. You were killed by the laws of physics.
True that.
Yeah. Mental note for anybody who is curious: do not fly a biplane at full speed into a forest. Don't do it. It's not a good idea. Don't cartwheel your plane across the runway and explode in a forest. All right. So make the new mental note. Yes.
I remember this game. It took me a second, but now I remember.
Yeah, it was the Halloween game over at GNS.
Yep. I modded that game.
It was good times. That was fun. I was so sad. It came down to a roll that Blythe made, and she felt so terrible. I'm like, no, don't. That's the game. That's the game. It's not your fault. So, what other announcements do we have for this evening before we jump in tonight?
Yeah, well, I can jump on that. Gina and I over at Pixel Circus Twitch channel. It's a new game called Failed Safe. We're playing D&D, led by Vince Casso. That's at 6 p.m. Friday nights. And the first episode happened. It happened. It's a ton of fun, and it's called Failed Safe for a reason. Excellent.
All I know is that the motif of like 16 and 8-bit graphics has won my heart.
It looks so good. Both of your I'm like, is it weird for me to print these out as posters?
It was like trading cards.
Hey, not a bad idea. Oh, Sam's like, merch idea. I'm writing this down. Great. Yes, Aki.
I'm still on for the Quizzard and I next Tuesday. I'm still putting together all of the information on that, but I am doing Star Trek trivia. So if you want to come kick my ass at Star Trek trivia, come hang out for that next Tuesday, and keep an eye on the socials for more information about that.
Sweet.
Hi, we were going to show up and chat bomb you. Right, Rafe?
The cat. Yes.
I have one, Eric.
Yes, Bonnie, go ahead.
It's Saturday. Y'all go to the Library Bard's social media in order to get tickets. But it's an event called, I'm reading this because it's a lot, Nerds and Music. It's with the Double Clicks, Jonathan Colton, Molly Lewis, special appearances by the Library Bards. That's us. Hey, Amy Dallin, Eliza Pearl, Hal Lubin. It's basic, Paul and Storm. It's like a crazy amount of people.
Yeah.
It's a crazy amount of special guests and really fun comedy sketches and music. I know for a fact that Star Trek may or may not be mentioned in a sketch. You should all watch. It's funny, but yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's going to be a fun Saturday extravaganza.
Sweet.
The end.
All right. The end. All right. Are there any other announcements before we jump into tonight's Le Game, which is not appropriate grammar? Because doesn't that mean the game? Before we jump into tonight's the game. Anyway, yes. Oh, Sam looks like they want to say something, but they're waiting for me to talk myself into a circle. Is that accurate? Nope, Sam is frozen. So we're all gonna just have to deal with this sassy look from Sam for the rest of the game.
Really frozen.
At least it's a perfect pose.
But we can't start until Sam says they're
I know. What are we do? What do we do? Sam said I might lose my power, and then like.
Oh no!
Quick, everyone, flap your hands.
Flap your hands. Flap your hands to Sam back.
I do.
Oh, thank goodness!
I do believe in Sam. I do.
By excite have I been summoned, and by excite shall we go to space.
Okay. With that, let's jump into tonight's episode of Clear Skies. Welcome back to Clear Skies. We're about to jump into our game, but before we do, a little science. Currently, we are experiencing a destructive heat wave here in Los Angeles. It is predicted to be up to 109 degrees tomorrow. And apparently, yesterday, scientists are saying that it is very possible the hottest temperature ever recorded in the modern times was recorded in Death Valley, California, at 130 degrees. Good times.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you got nothing, Tatooine. You got nothing. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into tonight's episode. When we last left off, the USS Ross was currently at station in the middle of a Mutara-class nebula, back in the good old Alpha Quadrant. No, you guys are in the Beta Quadrant. You guys have left Klingon space and are in a Mutara-class nebula back in a small pocket of Federation territory before heading back to the Shackleton Expanse and Narendra Station. You have this gap of time to which you can kind of plot your own course for the next a little shy of a week and a half now. You have all this time to get done whatever it is the USS Ross has been wanting to get done. Essentially, it's shore leave, but not shore leave, but shore leave. And you've been making good time of it. Particularly you, Miss Chatty Bonnie Gordon, whose character last week saved the life of one Romulan Sorex by injecting his brain with Borg nanites that have been enhanced to restore the degenerative decay that had been taking place in the lower part of his brain. Before the process had been reversed, he had reached up to 13% loss of brain tissue.
Just a typical Monday, all in a day's work, my dear.
You managed to save his life. Not only save his life, but the nanites actually began to regenerate the brain tissue itself. Not just regenerate the brain tissue, but regenerate it to an exactitude of what his brain scan was before the degeneration began to take place, which is a medical feat that has not been done by any modern Federation technology. Since that time, since the successful surgery, everyone has been... The ship has definitely been in high spirits, particularly because you've entered into a calm pocket of the Motar-class nebula, which means people have been able to get some rest and avoid the rolling ship-wide, the shimmies, basically, as everyone's been kind of experiencing the turbulence of the nebula. Of course, the Ross is in this nebula specifically so it could have some downtime without having to get worried that it might be getting tracked. There has been no sign of the Romulan ship that has been hunting the Ross since your departure from that pirate planet in which you definitely did not meet a certain pirate Romulan, Orion smuggler captain. Ever since your departure from that sector of space, there has been no indication that a Romulan has been tailing you. But then again, with a near-perfect cloaking device, it's hard to say. The USS Ross has been on station keeping right now, and even though things have calmed down considerably and spirits are high, not everyone is enjoying the calm. In particular, one ambassador on board the USS Ross has been given a bit of news that has been unsettling. Once brain function had been largely restored, it would appear that Sorex had a resurgence of memories that had been hidden or lost, was able to sort of crystallize his thoughts a lot to a more exact detail, to the point where he was able to actually convey who some of these images, these ghost-like images were in the holodeck programs that Exio had been helping him explore, along with the doctor and the captain. One thing he did remember, though, was that Olin's father apparently was a target for Tal Shiar recruitment, which was news, to say the least. He doesn't have that much more information, only just that he remembers that he was a target and that he was one of the mission parameters while infiltrating Starfleet. We pick up tonight's game at the start of the next Alpha shift. So the day starts, the bell chiming across the USS Ross as the lights begin to grow to their full luminosity. Crew members begin to exit their quarters and attend their morning meetings, talking to department heads as Aux crew begins to busily move about the ship. Alpha shift coming on begins with the doors to the bridge opening and the bridge crew of the USS Ross emerging from multiple turbo lifts to relieve officers at their stations and take their posts. Vren settling into the helm, Prawl taking the tactical station. Lacat, you slide into the science station, oddly rested this morning as you as you sit down. Exio, of course, is waiting for you when you enter into the bridge, Captain Sull. She is standing right by your center chair, as usual, arms folded behind her back and a pleasant look on her face as you move down the ramp. It was a quiet evening. Sensors have not been picking up too much information, except for it has been taking this time to study the nebula. But it is, in fact, a well-documented, well-classified nebula, and so the Ross has been mostly just confirming what science scans have already revealed about this nebula some 20 years ago. All's quiet on board the USS Ross. That's where we begin tonight's game, as Captain Sull slides into the center chair. You're about 10 minutes away from when you typically schedule the staff meeting for senior staff in the mornings.
I should specify that although this nebula has been excellently and very thoroughly charted for centuries, frankly, if Lacat finds a new species dwelling somehow in the nebula, she'll get something. I do not specify what the something is. I just motivate my officer.
A cinnamon roll. I will give you a cinnamon roll.
You want Lacat to go back to sleep again? Because this is how you keep Lacat awake at night. She's ready to find a new species.
Stations don't reveal anything. Internal scans, you receive update reports as Yeoman Shanto hands you some data pads to update you on all the things that have happened during the beta and gamma shifts. What you basically read is a standard report. There's a couple of colds on board that are being treated in sickbay, a couple of power fluctuations in the power grid, which is not unusual during your trek through the Mutara-class nebula. You guys have been charted as into the center of this pocket where it seems like a lot of the gaseous turbulence in this nebula has not been affecting the USS Ross in particular, giving you sort of like the same effect as flying through the eye of a hurricane in that regard. Nothing else really to report. A couple of transmissions from Starfleet Command, but most of it's just basic book and record keeping. Checking on status. Nothing really extravagant to report. Yes, Lacan.
Is it etiquette for Olin to be here at the top of Alpha Shift, and are they here on the bridge as well?
Olin is, if I remember correctly, Olin typically attends the senior staff meeting and is included on the senior staff meeting. And so as a result, Olin has traditionally shown up at the start of Alpha Shift, specifically so they're available for the senior staff meeting.
They have the chair to my left. Someone familiar with Galaxy might know, like, the Deanna Troi chair.
Yeah, the Deanna Troi chair.
Yeah. Perfect. I have seen the Deanna Troi chair. I know the Deanna Troi chair.
It is also sometimes the doctor chair as well.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
It's also sometimes the doctor's chair as well.
Oh, good to know. I just have that visual of Deanna sitting in it, so like I know. Is Olin there, and what does their general demeanor look like? Because I think that just subconsciously, because Lacat does see them as such like a good friend, they like check in just like every morning, even if it's not like a actual hi, because that's way too polite for Lacat. But what are we getting from them?
Olin is there and is on time as usual, but Patience is not with them.
And that's range.
Has that ever happened before?
There are times when like protocol doesn't allow for Patience to be with Olin, and that's usually like on like mission stuff that they won't bring Patience along, but Patience always, as long as the captain says it's okay, accompanies Olin to the bridge. Okay. So I don't think I've ever been on the bridge without Patience.
Okay, so this is definitely standing out to Lacat. No Patience.
I think Lacat's like eyebrows.
Sorry, one more point of clarification. If we were in the middle of a red alert or a yellow alert, Patience would also not be on the bridge.
I figured. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes, absolutely. Can't say the same about Orwell, but he'll go on.
Orwell's where Orwell wants to be, and heck your restrictions.
Yeah. Orwell's gonna Orwell.
Yes, we are technically at yellow alert now, but we're not like in a emergency way. So there's some differences there.
Sure.
Jane is. Oh man. Okay, so here's what Jane does. I think that she sees the lack of patience, and her eyebrows, like this is like the most like facial expression you've like seen on her for a while. But she doesn't say anything. She just turns to her workstation and concentrates on a flurry of emotions. Just like, I'm gonna be concerned, but I'm also going to be worried, and I'm also gonna be kind of pissed that you didn't tell me about this. And so, and it's almost like she is trying to send up like a red flag with her emotions for you, Owen. So she's like, I understand that this is something has happened here, but I'm not going to call you out in front of everyone, but I'm going to tell you in a way that only you know.
Olin, I think at the very least, like their eyes flick to the side at Lacat's back, and then they just sort of just continue to sit.
I'm thinking very hard at you, and she's like scowling while looking at her, the sensor display. And if Bren asks, she's gonna like shush him, and that's what Jane's doing right now. She's concentrating.
Okay. Vryn looks like he is going through the morning routine of checking position, checking speed, like basically catching up with everything the Ross has been doing since he's been asleep. Finding out where in space you are. Not an easy thing to do, especially with external sensors that are just blitzing out right now. External sensors, you can get kind of base reads from the nebula. Chemical compositions, gaseous anomalies that are about the ship, but for the most part, long-range sensors and short-range sensors, they don't really function within the nebula. You can't see what's going on outside, and you can barely tell what's going on inside. So, if you raise visual on the main screen, it's just mix of static with some occasional glimpses of what you're seeing outside. You have a better opportunity to look out the window and have a good idea of what's going on. But after a few minutes, everyone, are kind of just like clockwork, rises from their posts and proceeds to the back conference room for the senior staff meeting.
Before the actual meeting gets started, Exio, you'll receive a notification in your calendar that Tech has requested a counseling session at some point whenever you're free.
Oh.
But that's definitely before the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. So, all right. Okay. So, Exio has had a lot going on. She has sort of been allowing herself less free time because she has been actively working on several projects, namely connecting all of the stuff for Olin so that this is prepared. And now, after receiving like an intense sort of emotional hit to Olin, picking up even more so of that slack in case they need extra support, and then was very amused and concerned at the body language of today, because yay, like cat got sleep. Oh, that doesn't look good. Oh no, like oh no. Okay, well that yeah, it's a lot of like oh no, oh everything's okay. Well, that's an expected behavior, but that's okay. Like it's a lot of like piecing together and a lot of processing, and then it was like do, and then like a small like relief of like, oh thank God someone reached out. just like whew. So it's been a lot of processing, and then thank goodness. Okay.
So relief crew members of the Ox crew take over at the stations as you all head back to the conference room. Everyone's settling in at the long, glossy black surface of this table. Outside the windows are the beautiful golds and purples of this nebula swirling about the ship. But because you are in this pocket of calm, you have this really beautiful telescopic view, almost like there's a warping effect outside the window that kind of makes objects closer than they appear. And you can see these lightning effects within the cloud every now and then, just like a spray of light within the clouds themselves, as this nebula is constantly roiling around itself. And Vryn takes a seat. Prawl takes a seat. Everyone's settling in. Asmi Shanto moves around the side and stands next to the captain with a stack of data pads in her hands and gets quiet as the back screen comes online with the Starfleet logo.
What do we got?
Asmi Shanto begins to pass out data pads, and she says, just some basic housekeeping from Starfleet, Captain. Nothing particularly exciting today. Status reports, updates, things like that. Hands them out.
Engineering? Anything interesting with those power fluctuations?
It seems like we're keeping them steady for now. I think as long as we stay put, we've got a good chance of staying here for quite some time. Of course, we can't continue with our research with the ESB until we make connections with the Jashashians, but until then, engineering should be good to go.
All right, that's good. How is our patient doing? Recovering?
Yes, he's healing nicely. It seems to be still a bit of a shock to have some of his memories come back as quickly as they have. So I'm trying to give him time to process. Also, trying to give the crew time to process his new old face.
Yes, it does rather blow his cover more than previous. But we'll eventually have to have an interview with him in order to advance some of our other aims, but I defer to you, Doctor, on when he will be ready for it.
He's been mostly just keeping to himself in his quarters, also for his own benefit, to not stir the pot of the crew. I think that's the right expression of pot stirring.
I would have to ask a human.
Like lot of quiet space in between after, so I was worried that I said something inappropriate. In your window, in your window, in my window.
I just put the data pad down.
You set it down.
Head to the room.
Pick up my tea. I'm just gonna pick up my tea.
Vrin across the table, staring at you with his eyes, kind of like he's figuring, like he's unraveling everything you said. Like, oh, okay.
No, because the cat turns to Ren and is like, "Aren't you good at human sayings? Like, you know how to swing dance and stuff. Is that?"
I'm okay. I mean, I think I'm okay.
Is she using it right?
About the pot stirring?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
Wait, maybe.
Huh.
Maybe.
I suppose we have one person who was actually born there. Exio, can you give us any insight?
Honestly, I have no idea.
From now on,
the windows part sort of threw me off.
Yes.
Well,
I was with you with the pot, but the windows.
I'll try and
confusing.
not do as many lingo phrases.
Please never stop, Doctor.
I've been
we
trying
need this
to
kind
work...
of cultural exchange, and I appreciate it. No matter how many years you spend with them, you don't always know what you don't know.
Does it matter what's in the pot that you're stirring?
Vrin pipes up at that point and says, "It's worth noting that the most powerful brain on board the ship still doesn't know if you're right or wrong on that. So I just want to point out that because of that fact means that I'm still really good at this kind of thing."
Jeez.
And Olin just turns
No, the pot was actually used correctly.
Oh.
And Olin just turns to Tech and in Japanese says, "They have a completely different saying for it there, don't they?"
Talk the ears off a brass monkey?
So then they.
Prawl murmurs, "This is the most surreal meeting I've ever had in my life."
Anything from tactical, then, to get us back onto track, Commander?
Sensors are utterly useless. Shields are still down, Captain.
Well, so it is on our evasion course, and that I leave entirely in the capable hands of Lieutenant Fram.
Commander Prawl, I apologize. We have no sensors and we can't use shields, but in the current position we're in, is it possible to send out messages and stuff?
Not until we exit the nebula, no. Any kind of transmission that would try to escape the nebula would undoubtedly be scrambled before it ever reached the perimeter.
I see.
We could conceivably send a probe as a carrier.
But your link to the probe would be scattered, Captain. It would be
leave
very
it as a
difficult.
message in a bottle to the... Once it exits the nebula, send its message to the nearest subspace relay.
Something is better than nothing.
It's true we could use an emergency probe. The way that some ships do with SOS beacons, we could totally rig something like that if you'd like, Ambassador.
Is there something emergent, Ambassador? It would give away our vector a little bit. It would throw us off somewhat, but if it's required for the Starfleet Diplomatic Corps, I'm sure we can make something work.
Also, it's important to note that the message in a bottle would just be that. You would not get the bottle back, meaning if someone replied, we would not be able to receive any bottles.
That one was correct, I'm quite sure.
I don't know just yet. I'm still trying to determine a few things. But we'll let you know if anything emergent does surface.
Please do. The cat. Any luck on those life forms?
Can I roll for those life forms?
I can tell you there's no life forms in this Mutara Nebula. This nebula has been mapped thoroughly, and it is the remnants of a dead star. What's that?
On this nebula?
Can
I roll for an interesting piece of on this nebula?
I mean, if you want to build some momentum, I'd be down for that. So we can set it at difficulty 0. Okay.
Yeah.
I would say that's your reason science roll.
Amazing. I just don't want to come back empty-handed, you know? If the captain asks me any life forms, I want to be like, no, but there are.
Okay. Go ahead. 2 successes. Gain 2 momentum, everybody. So what comes out of the cat's mouth is basically just an avalanche of basic science facts about a nebula. How long this nebula has been around, how long it's been documented. They say it is the remnants of a star that was destroyed by what they believe may have been the natural life cycle of a star some few billion years ago. It is sort of the aftermath of a supernova.
Could I also add like an addendum of just like if research, I will roll for this as well, of just like all the ships that have like gotten wrecked or died by this nebula?
The nebula triangle?
Yeah, exactly.
No ships have been lost in this nebula. This nebula has been charted by a Federation science team some 65 years ago. It has been updated 20 years ago. It has been deemed rather unremarkable. A beautiful, beautiful sight. But for the most part, it is your standard class celestial puff cloud with a lot of thunders rolling.
So on top of everything, it's an unremarkable puff cloud, Captain.
I'm gonna turn to Lacat and just say, you know, if you have a free time later, meet me in sick bay. I have something that might interest you.
Lacat throws a look at Ola like that was gonna be her game plan right after this meeting, but she turns back to you and is like, okay.
The cat, being very expressive this morning, just shoots a glance over at Olin, then turns back to you.
The cat sleeps.
Yeah, right. No filter.
It functions as it's supposed to be.
Okay.
She turns back to the captain.
Well, that can't be helped, I suppose. You are trying your hardest, I'm sure.
A silence begins to fall over the table a little bit.
If you say that to her, Captain, is she allowed to work beta shift as well?
Mm.
I don't think you're allowed to do.
Recreational astrometrics exist, albeit not on the bridge.
Fair, valid. We have an entire lab for that. Great. Jane's got to be in 3 places at once. Then the next gonna make it work.
Actually, I was a little upset about this interaction. When everyone gets cheeky, everyone gets tired, and
This is what happens when you have a goose for a captain.
Okay.
We don't know my machinations. You'd have to ask, and I might even tell.
The goose loose on the bridge, the goose on the bridge. Have you ever seen them in the same place at once?
It's true, Sol was inclined to ask about their newfound nemesis. Last
Vryn,
seen on deck 14, I believe.
Vryn just pipes up and goes, I just don't want to see what happens if that goose ever gains access to the battle bridge. Wait.
Commander Prawl.
Is that a concern?
Commander Prawl leans forward and says, no, it's not a concern. The goose is a holographic malfunction that's been jumping from emitter to emitter across the decks. It hasn't harmed anyone, although it has scared a few of the civilian and engineering staff behaving as geese do by chasing them. But aside from that, it's an inconvenience, and I am assured, he glances over, the Trill kind of looks right at you, Chief, and says, I am assured that it's not a security threat and that it will eventually be under control.
Well, if the goose would stop taking my spanner, then I can get it under... I mean, we've got it under control. It's fine. It just gets more clever each time it pops up.
As long as you don't suspect foul play.
No, I don't. It's
Was that right? Did I say that? That one was correct. I know it's correct. It was just a horrible joke. No one laughed. Okay.
I'll
All right.
investigate a further commendation. What? Well,
Okay.
then if there's nothing else, do things.
Everyone begins to rise up from the table.
Except for Olin.
And Prawl.
Oh,
Prawl
Jane lingers.
Go!
As everyone disperses from the room, Vryn kind of laughing, going, I don't know, why is that funny? Captain sounds mad. And then walks out the door with a couple other people filtering out. Prawl says, Captain, with permission, I'd like to speak to you.
As would I. But I
May
can
meet with you in my ready room in a moment, Ambassador.
Yes, Captain. Actually, I would appreciate it if the commander were also there. Exia.
Ah. Very well. Then do collect her on your way. I'm sure this won't be but a moment.
Yes, sir. And I go and grab Exio and head to the ready room. If Exio's down.
Mr. Paul?
Super down. Very excited to download all of the things she has learned.
Prawl just, he takes a breath for a moment and says, Captain, permission to speak freely.
Granted.
What are we doing here, Captain? Why are we sitting in this nebula?
As I've said, if we are going to continue some of our work, we need to entirely evade this ship. And so, running through a nebula is the quickest way to lose it off of their long-range sensors. It won't work forever, but it'll work long enough.
I don't mean any disrespect, Captain. I'm just not used to hiding from my enemies.
Do you have some alternate recommendation then?
Chief seems to have a plan about detecting this thing.
Yes.
The sooner him and Lacat get that technology working, the sooner we can solve this problem.
Yes, but that's a matter of detection at a time when I need to lose them entirely, and due to the astrography of those dual objectives, we evade and then we find the tools of detection.
Aye, Captain.
Do you have a plan for when we do find them, Commander?
I need to see how Chief Tech's device works. Once I can learn the intricacies of essentially dropping a detection bomb in the middle of space, and pinging outside the Ross, it's going to take some getting used to. Once the technology is acquired, I'd like to run some simulations.
The sooner you can start mocking up contingencies, the sooner we'll be able to feel confident about our battle plan when it all too likely comes. I want every advantage possible before we confront, and frankly, I don't want to do some of the things that we do without being sure we're not being trailed.
There's something that bothers me.
Just one.
I've been thinking about this for a while. I've been trying to get ready for this, Captain. The Ross is a big ship, but she's not a warship. She shouldn't be in this fight. We're an ambassador-class vessel, technically. We're meant for exploration and establishing first contact. We don't have any business getting into a fight with a rogue Romulan warship. But if it's coming for us, I want to make sure that I can use everything the Ross has at her disposal to turn the tide. So I've been researching, looking at old battle records. And there's something that doesn't add up to me.
What?
Two things. The first was, he let us go without firing a shot. He could have killed you in that shuttlecraft if he was out there.
Indeed.
You were as vulnerable as you've ever been. Why didn't he take the shot? Why didn't he attack the Ross? The other thing that troubles me is the neutron radiation surges that we detect when he's around, supposedly.
Yes.
Captain, when Praetor Shinzon staged his coup and killed the Romulan Senate, he had at his disposal a one-of-a-kind ship called a Scimitar. And it, too, was capable of firing while cloaked. The difference was that it was able to retain what they call a perfect cloak. So why would he need the technology to fire while cloaked using the same tech? The only other vessel that we have on record that's been able to do that was a Klingon bird of prey during the attack on the Enterprise in the Kittimer Accord signing. They were able to triangulate its location using a torpedo that could home in on neutron radiation surges. It just doesn't make sense to me. If this Admiral Mendak is as brilliant as he supposedly is, why would there be a neutron radiation surge? It doesn't make sense. He would have access, presumably he would have access to Romulan cloaking technology that would function better. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Some of it suggests possibilities. He didn't shoot at us because he wants Sorex more than he wants us dead.
Why?
Instance.
That boggles my mind, though, Captain. If you think about it, the Tal Shiar are willing to install a device in your brain that will kill you if you wander off the loyalty ring. Why would he be risking so much to save Sorex? It doesn't add up. And it tells me, Captain, that so long as Sorex is on board, he will not destroy the Ross. Why? Doesn't add up. There's something missing that we've overlooked. I can feel it.
Either overlooked or has not yet been revealed to us. It's one of the reasons I look forward to further interviewing Mr. Sorex, but that is not yet an option. As regards your second question, yes, I have the same apprehension about those surges. Frankly, we should never have gotten any of those half-second glimpses that you managed. It makes no sense unless it were
planned.
Deliberate.
I had that thought too, Captain.
So
Why? I'm gonna roll for Prawl, because this conversation has got his gears turning, and he might actually be able to uncover, now that he's been able to. May I spend one of those momentum?
Yes, you may.
Yes.
May I? Cool.
Yes. I'm setting the difficulty for this at 5.
All right.
I'm gonna spend the momentum. You can assist. Captain, you can assist using your insight command.
Lovely.
And he is going to use his insight security.
Ah, that's a 6 from me.
look at his focuses here. Nope. Nope. Okay, 6 from you. I roll an 11, a 7, and a 1.
That's
Not a
5.
focus, you say.
That's 4 successes from Prawl.
Then
And
5
a difficulty
total.
what? I'm sorry?
Difficulty was 5.
Then we're set.
Yeah.
So that's good, right?
Yes, you hit.
I
You
was
hit.
just checking for momentum.
Yeah.
Prawl, you see him chewing on this for a moment, and he says, "Decoys." What if this admiral, this Tavaro class ship, that's a warship that's heavily outclassed by the Ross. But being able to fire Romulan plasma torpedoes while cloaked, that's the advantage.
It's a good equalizer. I don't think it would win them the fight, but it wouldn't hurt.
It would if you could absolutely never find the Tavaro. And a way to guarantee that is to create decoys. Let us think that we can find him, and while we're busy shooting at ghosts, he blows us out of the stars.
So, tactically, how do you combat that, Mr. Prawl?
How much momentum do you guys have?
We have 1.
Let me spin that for Prawl, and I'll give him the tactical
Yes.
information. Okay.
Good.
So Prawl's question is, if these are real decoys, how would I counter them? Prawl thinks for a minute and says, if he's using decoys, it's because he knows the moment he knows that his one advantage is the cloak, and he's not betting everything on being able to remain hidden, which means he's brilliant, and he's creating a plan within a plan. So while we're pinging out in space trying to find him, we're shooting at his ghosts, and he's pelting us with plasma torpedoes. How do we counter that? Our advantage is that if it's true, our advantage is that he doesn't know we've figured it out, which makes him vulnerable. So how do we detect him? If I could work with Chief Tech on this, I don't know what the Jashashian technology is capable of. But it's possible that if we change our priority, Captain, and stop looking for neutron radiation surges, we might have a better chance at finding him. We just need to know exactly what to look for.
We have to smell him.
If the Jashashian tech uses subspace, maybe there's something there. It's all theoretical.
It's what we have right now. We'll need your best tactical doctrine for how to shoot at something we can't see, just in case it doesn't work. But for now, trying to figure out how to tactically engage them should be your priority.
I do have one more suggestion.
Please.
It makes no sense that we should know a superior stalking enemy is out there hunting down a ship that's not created for war. It's a wild suggestion, Captain, but maybe we could pull some strings and call in a favor with the Klingon Empire. I know I'd feel a lot better if there was a cloaked Klingon bird of prey getting our back.
Compile all of the sensor records you have about this, all of the objective evidence. And we'll see with whom we can liaise on the Klingon side.
I'll need your clearance, though, Captain. Some of this is shrouded in a lot of secrecy because of our Dominion mission. I'll need to know exactly what I can tell the Klingons.
Well, collect them all together, and I can go through with a big black marker before we send them off.
Aye, Captain.
Thank you for the initiative.
Thank you for listening, Captain.
I'd be a fool not to listen to a very skilled officer. Both of you have to meet with an ambassador.
You see a slight jaw clench, and then he says, "Aye, Captain." And he pivots on his and leaves the room.
I'll make my way to the ready room for my second meeting of the day then.
So let me go ahead and say that because you had an NPC that spent momentum on your behalf, the information you just got from that exchange is valid. Just to sort of like underline it, Prawl using his skills and tactics and whatnot, you have new information now on how you could possibly deal with this character. And new questions. Because the one thing that hasn't been answered yet is why the hell Sorex is so important to Mindek. Moments later, stepping into your ready room, you see Exio and Olin waiting for you. Shh, the door closing behind you, the three of you are alone.
All right, now that I've heard all of the ways we might get shot out of space, please give me more good news.
First, I need to apologize. I'm afraid I was not entirely straightforward in the briefing room, and that is because I did not want everyone to know what was going on. The information I'm about to share with you is known only to Commander Exio and myself, and to Sorex, but I figured you should also know it. I don't exactly know the nature of what exactly is going on. I don't know if it's that my father is in danger or that my father is a traitor, but he is a target for Admiral Mendak in the Romulan Empire. Or actually, more accurately, the Tal Shiar. They want him for something. They're trying to recruit him, and I don't know why.
May I make a roll, Eric?
Sure. What would you like to know? What is the roll for?
I worked counterintelligence. I have a capacity to evaluate how the an ambassador with his history might be an asset.
That's going to be yes. You're going to need to pull up his file on your database, which Exio.
May I assist, since this is what I've been doing all night?
Oh, like you just slide the pad?
Yeah.
That I'd need to know, anticipating that I'd need to know this?
I have built 2 full profiles, one on the Romulan ambassador that we are going to meet, and Olin's father and the possible connections therein and where their paths have been crossing or not, and the like.
Yes. Who would like to roll for Ross?
Oh, and just so that both of you know, my father's name is Daro Majan Neal.
Thank you very much.
That's D-A-R-O. It's pronounced D-A-H-R-O-W. Who would like to roll for the Ross?
I could roll for Ross if you want.
Okay.
Aki, because it's your... Okay.
Ross is going to be rolling computers plus security.
Okay.
And Captain, you are going to be rolling... Actually, in truth, Exio would have lead on this roll. And Captain, you would be assisting. Because this is research that you initiated and did anyway, Exio, and Captain is basically asking you to call it up. even though that's not how the narrative chain of events just took place. But Captain Soul, this is essentially you asking if you can get a profile on this person when a profile's been made. Do you know what I mean? So in order to determine the quality of that profile, we would retroactively roll to see how well Exio did pulling up that information. And then Captain Soul can assist through a narrative, like giving the order of wanting to find out more about what's going on. Does that make sense?
Separate from the intelligence analysis that Sol
Correct.
would do when having that information.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, okay.
This is
Yeah,
to pull
yeah.
up the information. Your personal analysis comes next.
All right.
So
Okay. So this is a roll to see how well I did, and then separately, Sol is going to
right.
put their expertise on that research.
Correct.
So in this case, would I
Cool.
be assisting Exio? Since
Yeah, then this might be a more of an Olin and I
Not-
roll if this is for the initial research.
For the
For initial
information Olin gave over that Exio compiled as a dossier.
Yes.
Link
Okay,
to-
yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I'll let that. Yeah. In which case, Sander, why don't you roll for the Ross? Exio, this is going to be a reason command roll for you. And Ambassador, this is going to be, I'm sorry, Exio, this will be a reason security roll for you. And Ambassador, this is going to be a reason command roll for you. And for the Ross, her computers and her security. So the
I
difficult.
rolled a natural crit. I know,
Nice.
Dad.
The difficulty was 3.
Okay. Can
So-
I actually, for the remainder of this scene, can I call on a talent?
What's the talent?
I'm going to call on my program cache to give myself sort of a specifically more political knowledge, sort of like, because I'm sort of dipping into a sort of skill set that I don't normally have.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, you load it. You basically load a data profile.
I love
So-
this talent.
Yeah. It's literally like a moment where Exio just says processing and stops for a second and kind of stares off into space the way Data would do.
I see rainbow beach balls in her eyes.
With Gina's face, I don't know
Oh.
if that was a good thing or a
That
bad
was a
thing.
bad. That's a bad. That's the face palm that has become infamous.
That's the
bad.
emote that
You
we
can
use.
reroll terminate.
Reroll with using an interpretation. You can do
Sorry,
it.
sorry. What was that? What
What-
was going on? My brain just broke a little bit.
What are the numbers on the dice?
2 19s. So,
Amazing.
I'm gonna re-roll.
Do y'all have any
That
momentum
feels-
left?
We don't, but you can reroll
No,
with determination.
but I'm gonna do that because
Oh, okay, yes, because you haven't spent the determination yet.
I
That's
have
correct.
not spent my determination. Hello, it's early in the game.
not.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna either throw out process over product, so because this is not easy information. Diplomats and
No.
and the like are difficult beings to sort of track down and study,
Yes, they are.
or trust my expertise because gosh dang it,
That
I'm
one-
gonna get that information.
That one, with conjunction with your talent, that one makes the most sense.
Okay,
So I would say
great.
use that one, yeah.
Woo!
2 20s.
No.
Did we turn the tide? It looks like we turned the tide.
If I could
Cautiously
turn
optimistic
back
Gina
time.
face.
Great.
Yeah, that's 5.
Three successes. All right, so
5
1 from Ross, so 5 successes total off.
Successes.
6 successes off of a difficulty of 3, so gain 3 momentum.
That felt gross.
So, Exio focuses for a moment, and you see her expression go blank, which is typically what happens when Exio's doing a data deep dive. And for a moment, the room is still when on the wall computer to your left, Captain, and on your display on your desk, you start seeing files pop up. And scrolling through, you see the file on Olin's father, Daro. Immediately, you see the profile also of the Romulan ambassador, but that's kind of like on a separate tab pops up. But all this research basically pops up. You see the full run out of Daro's time as an ambassador for Delta. As a Delta ambassador, he has been serving with distinction. He is in the president's inner circle, has friends across the political spectrum, not only in the Federation, but the Klingon Empire, as well as some of the Andorian government and the Vulcan government. He has had a distinctive career. About the last 20 pages worth of information on his personnel file is classified and blocked out.
That's about as far as I got last night, Captain.
I don't think Olin was aware that their father was doing classified work.
Well, there's no indication that he's doing classified work. There's just the last 20 pages have been classified. They
Plenty
are
of reason
blocked
for
out.
work to be classified, Ambassador. Not all of it is suspicious.
Well, I'm not exactly suspicious. I'm actually a lot more concerned that my father is potentially in danger, but I don't exactly understand what it is that he could be doing that would have gotten the Tal Shiar's attention. And so, files...
Background like this, he is an intrinsically valuable asset to the Tal Shiar. Any spy agency would be climbing all over themselves to get someone like him. The question is why they think he might be vulnerable to it.
I mean, well, Captain, I would like to respond, but I'm going to ruminate here for a moment until... There we are.
Pardon me, I was just studying the dossier.
It's fine. I was ruminating to myself. We were both in a... I can't say that... My parents and I are close. We have a good relationship with each other, but I have my career and they have theirs, and so we've sort of never really touched base on what the other was doing. And I guess for good reason, we can't always share the details of our work with each other. Though I did ask him about what was going on with... And apparently he got stonewalled.
I recall, yes.
And then following the incident on Starbase, he apparently pulled a lot of strings to keep me from being fired, which I'm definitely going to contact him about.
Just as a quick refresher, Captain Soul does not know specifically what you did on the Starbase. Nobody does.
Except Prawl, who allegedly did, based on that.
Yes, Prawl was the
night
only...
he mentioned it.
So
I didn't realize that they had not been notified.
No, nobody. Prawl was the only one because Prawl heard a rumor through security at Starbase 105.
Cool.
Prawl gossip.
I do believe, I will say canonly, I think Exio mentioned to you something about knowing something.
Yeah. I would imagine at least the commander. I don't think that Prawl would have gone without at least informing somebody in command of what happened, but I don't know.
Prawl
That's diplomacy business.
It's really, Prawl would not have said anything, but this is an instance in the narrative where you guys can decide if you know or not.
We can also chalk me up to me knowing as I'm the EXO, so I tend to need to know gossip and things of but not necessarily
very true.
Spreading that or knowing when that information isn't necessarily needing to go up any chains, and just knowing, okay, that's something to know about, and that's about it.
The EXO is the captain's filter for that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Perhaps less so on a ship captained by an intelligence officer than on many ships. But nonetheless, I'm happy to credit knowing or not knowing whatever we think has more story juice. That's also not something that we necessarily need to decide in this minute, because I don't know that whether or not that's directly relevant.
It's just the thing that Olin says, and you can take it how you want to, and we can deal with it later.
Exactly. So, my question, if you'll forgive me, Ambassador, what points of leverage do you know that the Tal Shiar might have been able to use against her father?
To be perfectly blunt, I don't know that any. I don't even know why they're looking into him. I can only guess that honestly, conjecture is not my strong suit. I don't know. I've barely been able to understand what's been going on for the last few days, ever since he even told me about it. And I desperately want to contact my father, but we're not in a position to do that.
No, we are not, and that kind of message could be far too easily intercepted and show our hand. I'm afraid we'll have to be encrypted to Vulcan and back before it would be secure to send any kind of inquiries on it, especially with... Ambassador, could you somehow be that vulnerability? Family is a powerful lever.
I don't... perhaps there's more to Sorex choosing me than we first suspected.
There's nothing from your own career that could be used against your father.
I had very brief encounters with the Romulan Empire some time ago, but not anything particularly meaningful. And I mean, I had interactions with Cardassia after the Dominion War, and I don't know if that is particularly relevant to them either. I honestly don't know what my value is to the Tal Shiar, or why they would be after me.
I think I would like to make my roll now.
Okay. So specifically, you're trying to get a sort of like you're going to skim the information that you have seen in front of you to get sort of an idea, like build sort of almost like a profile in your head as to why they might target him. Is that accurate?
Why either they think they can,
okay.
Because clearly from the biography you can see the value of the target. That's self-evident. It's like, but you know, there are plenty of high-placed people you don't think you can go after. Why do they think they can go after this one? Or how would I try to if I were going to try to get something over on him?
I would say an insight command check.
Yeah, that's what it feels like to me as well.
And I believe you have a focus that'll kick in here too.
I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the
Would you mind me assisting by talking it through with you and giving you relevant information, since I do have a focus or a talent actively going for only the remainder of this scene?
Honestly,
I very much hope you will. Yes.
Honestly, I think the best way, I think narratively you can make an assist and just say that the information that you have dug up is essentially the assist.
But I can also actively be assisting in sort of, because they're asking specific questions about Olin's career.
I sort of have this mental image of like sitting back and thinking, and you pointing out things that might be relevant, because the process of compiling a dossier gives you an editorial sense as well. Yes.
It is a Riker Picard moment where you two are bouncing ideas off each other.
Bouncing off ideas, because I also have lots of information about Sorex and the possible timeline of when all of this might be happening, and because of when that memory was returned, the likelihood of when he was accessing that information before he came on our ship, like that sort of stuff that I can aid with.
Yeah.
Love it. So what was their difficulty?
I'm going to set the base difficulty at 3, and then depending on the information asks, we can go from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is my role? Am I also Insight Command, since we're just sort of spitballing is the narrative of this?
I think so, yes. No, I would say Reason Command.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm taking a die. So we are at
2.
And will we have a roll for Ross out of this?
No.
Okay. Well, then we ought to do well, ought we not, Commander?
1 success from Exio.
And 4 from Sol, including a natural 1, or in this case, a natural squid.
Natural squid. All right. You and Exio bouncing ideas off each other. You have this kind of conversation out loud where you two are kind of breaking down the facts and trying to figure out what's available. There are some pretty obvious reasons why having an ambassador like this in your back pocket would be tremendously beneficial. The fact that he is in the inner circle of the president alone is enough to want to have this person in your back pocket. Where it's not adding up is from the personnel file all the way up to the classified section. You cannot for the life of you see specifically why they would be able to entice the ambassador.
Suggesting it's either not in the record or it is in the part of the record that got a big black marker.
Yes, it basically from what you are able to ascertain with the data available to you, there's a bunch of obvious reasons why this ambassador would be a great asset. There doesn't seem to be anything in particular that stands out, but also what would they be able to offer him? And why would judging from this dossier in this like psych profile that you and Exio have managed to assemble, there's nothing here that would indicate that the ambassador would ever betray the Federation. There doesn't seem to be any secondary ties. There doesn't seem to be any information immediately available to you as you're looking through this.
Since we have a psych profile, and that's granted by our role, can you give me a sense of the man then?
I'm sorry,
Either of you?
Who are you asking?
Yes. Because one or the other of you know about him, so tell me about him since I have a psych profile in front of me.
He's always been, as far as I know, incredibly loyal and devoted man. He and my mother love each other, always have. They've always taken very good care of me. They taught me more or less everything I know about diplomacy, and then made sure I had all of the tools I needed to learn even more.
To what is he loyal? To Delta? To family? To the Federation?
All of the above.
But in what order?
That I'm not sure of. I've never really bothered to ask. I would imagine his family first. I mean, when I was born, he and my mother went so far as to leave Delta so that I would be safe. Not immediately, but later in life when things started to get more difficult for me.
Yes. But you can feel these things about him. Whether you know intellectually, this is an answer you know.
I don't think there's anything he wouldn't do for my mother and I.
I see. Master of Games.
Mm-hmm.
The blacked out part.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a flattened PDF, in effect?
In the computer database of the USS Ross, yeah. Could you possibly gain access to something else if you were able to make a connection to Starfleet? Could you pull? If you're asking, is there a way I can get a non-blacked out version? Yes, there is. It would require pulling strings. It would require contacting Starfleet. It would require basically pulling in some favors.
Or being extraordinarily impolite, yes.
Yes, or possibly violating protocol to the point where your career could be endangered, yes.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes, that is always a choice. Yeah.
Yes.
But as the database on as the computer database on the raw stands, this is what you have. Yeah.
That's exactly why I ask.
Yeah.
One other question vis-a-vis the database of the Ross and its capacity. In compiling this dossier, are there access to things like movement records?
I mean, his tour, basically his service as the ambassador is all on file. Yeah, it would probably be included in the dossier. I mean, when Exio basically built a psych profile, it included things like what's his favorite drink and where does he like to go on vacation.
What were those things, by the way?
What's his favorite drink and where does he like to go on vacation?
I collect this information about people.
You can ask me about it later. I'm sure I can find
Sounds
out.
Good. Please give that to me later, Ambassador. I know their favorite snack. There's a thing.
Sure.
All right. Well, good news and bad news. Good news, I see no vulnerabilities here that someone might try to target. Bad news is same. I'd need the more thorough version of his records to try to guess why they might go after him. This looks as picture perfect and scrubbed as you could ask any Federation files to be, which, if you were a diplomat being courted by the Tal Shiar, is exactly what I would expect. They don't do messy work.
I could ask my mother. Or my commanding officer.
No. If she would know what is in these parts? The redacted ones?
I mean, when I was younger, at least they told each other everything I don't know about now. It might even be more telling if he hasn't been telling her what he's been doing.
You said you contacted him, yes?
Olin, remind me real quick, your mother, she was not also an ambassador, was she?
She was.
She was, right, okay.
Family business.
Yep. 100%.
Right.
The ambassadors all the way down.
I asked because there is a protocol trying to, always remember that when you're showing classified documents to people, who is seeing it is definitely on the table of like possible consequences. Your mother, however, being an ambassador, maybe those consequences aren't quite as much to worry about.
Yeah,
but
that's why I suggested
to be aware
her.
of.
That's why I suggested her. I was like, she's kind of a safe avenue for this, probably.
Yeah,
right. And there's a honey, how was your day? That she might have access to.
Yeah,
exactly. It's just like to be honest, if I can keep this in the family, I would like to try.
No, sure. Exactly. And so Sol did say, no, your mother. Though, just incidentally, when you contacted your father recently and got a response, which subspace beacon did it ping off of? Where was he?
Master of Games?
Yeah, the last time you contacted your father, he was actually on Earth.
Where he often tends to be, probably his office on Earth in San Francisco. I don't actually know the last time he was deployed to a specific location. He does
It's been a long time.
He does a lot of his work there, almost directly with the president most of the time.
Which put him into close proximity to a Tal Shiar operative who had infiltrated Starfleet headquarters specifically, of course. Yes, that makes sense.
Which would have given Sorex a lot of time to observe him. And me.
All right. If you can communicate surreptitiously, I don't know what kind of capacity your family has for code and inside jokes. I don't presume on your personal life, but
I can tell you it's a lot easier when we're all in the same room.
well, can you do it the hard way? Ask for information from your mother without asking for information about this from your mother.
I think I know exactly the person to talk to for help.
Who?
The only sibling I've ever had.
All right, well, draft a message and we'll see what we can do about getting it out to a buoy as surreptitiously as possible. Again, because we are in hiding in the most beautiful puff cloud in the sector.
I'll be frank and say, I really can't wait to no longer be in hiding.
I know the feeling.
Thank you,
All right.
Captain. And again, I'm sorry that I couldn't be more straightforward in the briefing.
What is this reaction, Gina?
That reaction is just like, I can only imagine all three of us just feeling like the mood.
Yeah.
But Exia
Never.
cannot say it out loud.
Right.
But
You don't owe the whole senior staff your family secrets.
I don't, but I don't mind. I don't particularly like keeping things hid under a bushel if I can help it. So not being able to be open about things does not particularly sit well with me. And I already know that Lacat is incredibly angry with me, so I better go put that fire out soon.
If you feel obligated.
Oh, I never
She
feel
has
obligated.
plenty on her plate, and I do my best to add to it. I
Just
look to Exio and a sort of like, yeah, I vibed it.
Just as a quick reminder, and you can approach this however you want. There's no right or wrong here, but just as a quick reminder, Lacat does not have classified clearance. So however you want to approach that, you can do it however you like, including showing her the whole folder. But just letting you know.
I'm gonna figure that out when in the moment. I think, depending on how this conversation goes.
Do your thing.
And she has exactly the level of classified as Captain deems are necessary for specific purposes, and on their head be it.
I dropped the file on the floor. How was I supposed to know?
Oh my gosh, I have this.
I said it was okay. Come at me later, admirals.
Yeah. Okay. So
I excuse myself.
Taking the data pad with you, exiting the room, door closes behind you. It's Exio and the captain now in the quiet. And just a flash of light tracing across the nebula outside your window.
Much to think about.
What is your aim for the shift then, Commander?
Well, now that the dossier is done, I suppose probably at least 3 more.
Yes, maybe on his staff. We can find this sideways as well. Their records might leak something that will inform us. Bits and bobs here and there.
I think next, yes, staff and plugging in Sorex to the narrative. He had worked alongside Dr. Redgraves, and it seems not impossible that he had access to Darrow's anything.
We have all the records from Sorex's old cover.
Yes.
Those are public because those were Federation. So we can track his movements, compare them against anything from the staff. Just try to find correlations, if anyone can. It's someone capable of running an arbitrarily large data set.
The thing that's interesting to me, though, is We're not entirely sure when Sorex started to default and go to base instincts of protecting himself and the family he believed he had. So it would make sense that if he was working so closely and possibly the leak of monitoring the ambassador, why his instinct would be to go to Ambassador Olin, why that impulse might have been there. He might have already had information aside from being an easy target, as he said, and he actually corrected himself last time we spoke, as he believed he knew that they would help him, and it could be from intense study, and they might not even know it, but he knew that they were a target. He knew that Dora was a target, but we don't. It's not unheard of that possibly him being on board our ship with the ambassador is even more information that the Tal Shiar could use. Like the moment you said that, it sort of has been clicking for me that it might be a huge asset if he was the connection to Dora to be on our ship with the ambassador now. A huge bargaining chip, especially with family being possibly number one on that list, Captain. They have an agent on board with the ambassador, and I'm sure that they want him for some reason, as the image of his wife, whoever, Sela. But I don't know what the connection is, but it's all incredibly expansive, and I need it to shrink.
Things are far too connected on this ship, I'm quickly finding. And you'll see Sulla's fiddling with your ring as they say that.
Well, why don't we pause right there, because it's 8 o'clock. So let's go take our 10-minute break. Let our brains decompress from the tangled webs that we weave. We'll be back in about 10 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Clear Skies, everybody. Let's go ahead and jump back into tonight's game, because we got a big one taking place right now. Lots of conjecture, lots of intrigue taking place, lots of trying to figure out what the hell is going on, lots of sitting in a nebula. So jumping back into our game, who would like to take the first seat? Now, right now, I do know that Ambassador Olin Majanil was about to head to speak to Lieutenant Lacat. Would we like to pick it up there? In which case, where would we find Lieutenant Lacat? Because she should be at her duty station right now.
Oh, she should be? Okay, then...
yeah, Alpha Shift has begun, so you'd be at your science station.
Then oh wow, I hate saying this, but she's where she's supposed to be.
You hate saying that. That's a Starfleet officer talking Starfleet officer-y thing.
Yeah,
so.
Just being a good kid.
Hey, I showed up for work. Yay.
I actually think that this conversation is an end of shift thing, so I'm happy to toss the ball to somebody else for now and pick this up when our shift ends.
In all honesty, unless there's an operation being done for the day, unless the Ross is leaving the nebula, unless something like that is happening, we can go ahead and do ship operations throughout the day and cut to after Alpha Shift ends. Unless anybody has anything specific they would like to do throughout the day that they want to go ahead and let me know about. I will say that Wellix, now known as Sorex, does stop by sickbay, which is a scheduled stop with an escort. He's only been in recovery outside of sickbay for about 17 hours now. So it's standard for him to come back and get checked up on again. Running full scan, he's healing perfectly. His brain has achieved 100% regrowth. At this point, he has a fully reconstructed Romulan brain. And Borg nanites coursing through his system.
I'll also say that Tech is in the med bay as well for the checkup.
Okay. Nothing unusual. The nanites are behaving, they're kind of dormant at this point, but the damage that, after refining them and, again, using Borg nanites medically is not necessarily new. Certainly rebuilding a Romulan brain is going to be written about in medical journals after this.
Yes, I started my papers.
But because of some of the work, the research that came back with the USS Voyager once it returned from its very long trip across the galaxy, there's a lot of research available to us now, and the use of Borg nanites to implement in medicine of this kind of caliber, like doing what McCrell, you have kind of trailblazed a little bit here. Borg nanites are known to regenerate tissue, but this is the first time a Romulan brain has been reconstructed using Borg nanites. That being said,
it's also tissue. It's just,
that being said, even though that the brain has been restored, the connectivities, everything seems to be completely it looks like it's functioning like a normal brain. He is still having it's a brain that is having to redevelop on its own, meaning memory and whatnot is not accessible to him.
Yes.
So he is still working on some cognitive functions. However, he is no longer degenerating, and it's very clear. He's not confused. He seems very sharp when he walks in, very aware of everything that's happening around him. He responds immediately when you ask him questions. He responds honestly. But he does have sort of an air of, not in a negative way, but Sorex does seem to emit sort of like this energy of seeing the world for the first time kind of energy. Like, it's been a while since he's felt like his old self. Mm-hmm. And even though the memory patterns and whatnot have been damaged and there's aspects of his cognitive functions that are relearning how to work, this is the first time he's been improving in a long time. And it's having this sort of wide-eyed effect on him as he's looking around at the sick bay and asking questions that he's asked again in the past, but now retaining a lot of the information as he's hearing you respond. And yeah, a lot less paranoia as well.
As we're doing some basic tests and everything, I do want to, as McCrell, being a doctor who doesn't quite use the best type of methods to get results, as we're asking questions and going through the motions of everything, I'm just going to, he's going to be answering things. I'm like, yes. I'm going to grab an item from my desk, probably a statue souvenir that a cat so graciously gave me.
Okay.
And I'm just going to, have my back turned to him and yes. And then quickly turn around and throw it at him fast and check his reflexes.
Tech freaks out.
Because he is a freaking assassin, his reflexes and fighting skills are out of this world. And all the things that he's done so far, like when he freaked out and attacked some of our staff, or when he attacked me and ripped my shoulder out of socket, has all been a reflex, almost like a muscle reflex. And I'm checking to see his I think that I'm trying to spark.
You're the doctor checking reflexes. Some people bang on the spot on the knee, others chuck.
Some do a medical.
Orgons at Romulan Top Guards.
I have a feeling Dr. Sorex would approve of this. I think he would prefer a non-traditional.
Base our standards of care on what Romulan secret agents would approve of.
Do I need to roll for the throw?
No, he needs to roll to catch.
Yeah.
Throwing is not a problem. Is he paying attention? Is he ready to catch it? I am going to
take a momentum. I don't want to knock my patient out.
He is not a member of your crew. I'm not going to have him draw on your momentum pool. Instead, I am going to spend threat to increase the threat complication range of this by 3. Because I get to spend threat this game.
Oh, great. I made a mistake.
So 17 or better.
We'll see.
Although, no, that's not true. I think if you guys want him to be able to burn your momentum, I will accept that.
We established last episode that Soul Conversion is part of.
So if you want him to burn it, I will totally allow it. If you want him to burn him. Okay.
I don't, but I accept that Macrell does.
Okay.
Thank you, Captain.
All right, I'm rolling. Let's see. I'll set the difficulty for this at 2.
Fair.
It's a ranged attack, you know.
Oh my god.
Did I kill him? Did I just cure his brain with Borg technology only to hit him in the head with a statue and kill him?
Oh my
because
god.
this is something that would happen, and I think I might need to be excommunicated from Starfleet.
Excommunicated?
It's okay, I think it's only worth like 1 challenge dive damage.
I just want to say that we've been playing Star Trek Adventures a long time. And we played Shielded tomorrow, and we're playing Clear Skies, and now we're Blood of the Void. I have never rolled 3 complications before. This is the first time I can say definitively that with 3 dice, I rolled 2 17s and a 19.
Cures brain with Borg nanites. Immediately TBIs it with a Horgon.
Well, you know, Dr. McCrell has.
Whoopsie doodle.
Whoopsie. I did. That was a very Lark Sage thing to do, and now I'm regretting it.
So you're gonna have to explain to Starfleet Command how this Romulan operative was cured with Borg nanites to be bludgeoned to death by a Horgon at high speeds.
I say just a mild concussion. I mean, let's not get too crazy here.
Right.
Can I burn determination to have him reroll?
No, I'm gonna keep this real simple. I'm gonna roll a d6 right now.
Oh no.
I rolled nothing.
Oh.
But to keep things moving, I am going to reward myself 3 threat and gain back. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's 2 threat, so 2 force. Yeah, so
it's fine.
Yeah. Okay, so you, Dr. McCrell, you come stepping out of the office, and the moment the Horgon leaves your claw, like the moment it slips past the fur in your hands and leaves your fingertips, you realize just as it enters that precious moment of safety where you might have been able to stop it.
This was not a good idea.
Departs your hands. Your eyes have already begun to widen because you notice he's not looking up. He's looking straight down at what looks like this very nice civilian folded like tunic that he's wearing. A very TNG sort of like not very fashionable tunic to our modern eyes, but you know,
fold it over. Doesn't it? They always do.
And he looks like he's messing with what looks like a very charming wooden toggle kind of thing that kind of like folds in and clasps the tunic together. And there's this brief moment as the Horgon leaves your hand where you realize you just clobbered him with this thing.
Whoopsie doodle.
The Horgon impacts on his chest, doesn't cause any, but it startles the crap out of him. Whoa! And Chief Tech, who immediately says, whoa! And you see Sorex goes, whoa! And looks down at this thing, and then he looks up at you with this look on his face.
The minute everyone looked at me, I'm just gonna look behind me.
You glance behind you. Hey, there have been Ferengi. There's rumors there was a Q on this ship at one point. Who the fuck knows where that came from? Like,
the nebula must be confusing our gravitational levels in Medical Bay. No, I don't. No one believes me. I'm just gonna look at him and go, "You really hurt my shoulder." So you're okay.
Okay, he doesn't seem to know what this statue is as he's looking at it.
That's good. We don't need to explain.
However, Chief Tech, you are aware that he's holding this fertility statue, and glancing down at it, and he looks up, and you say, "You hurt my shoulder," and he says, "Are you expecting me to keep this?"
No, I was.
He drops it on the floor unceremoniously when you say no. He just holds it up and lets it drop. And it clatters to the floor, remains intact, but it rolls off to the side. And he stares at you.
I'm just gonna have him sit back on the medical.
Oh, he hasn't
bed.
left it. He's sitting on the med bed.
Oh, good. I'm just gonna be like, let's check your reflexes with a scanner. And I'm just gonna do a normal scan.
He glances over at you, Chief Tech. You see those dark green eyes as he just slowly glances over and watches you as she scans him up and down.
Over just to grab the Horgon and just to take that.
Okay.
I
as you pick up the Horgon, Xander, a Vulcan, Sivath, one of the Ox crew, steps forward and says, "Commander, Chief, I believe I could take that for you if you like."
Oh, you want to take it from me? Here you go.
An eyebrow quirk as she takes it. Thank you. And
no, what it means
walks
is
back to the doctor's office, which you can see behind the glass wall, and she just places it on the doctor's desk. And then returns to her nursing duties.
I'm just going to, as I'm scanning him, just be like, well, I was trying to find a fun and interesting way to check your reflexes, but it looks like your eye-hand coordination is not what it used to be.
He stares at you for a long moment. Very well. And he continues to stare. His eyes just kind of burrow into you for a moment.
I'm just going to keep staring at him and quizzically look him in the eye and say, "Is that a challenge?"
Is what a challenge?
I don't know. You seemed to be...
Doctor, did I receive the brain surgery or did you?
Well, everything is normal. In your scan, you are free to go.
You hold the tricorder closed.
You are to report back in 16 hours for another deep scan, and we can check your reflexes a more common way.
Very well. He slides off the medical bed.
He's trying to make it fun.
Hold on.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Oh. Okay. Interesting dice rolls tonight. Let's roll.
He trips off the bed.
Oh my god.
Face plants into the wall.
Sorex hops off the medical bed. As you're starting to turn, Tech, since you're actually facing him, you see this happen in a blink.
Uh-oh.
But there's you can hear the quick sound of something sliding past like the hard material. It all happens like super fast. But when you by the time the whole motion is done, as you glance back, Sorex has pulled the phaser off the belt of the nearby ensign security officer.
Whoa!
And is holding it, handle first, facing you, at your head.
Me?
No, at the doctor's head. So the phaser's actually pointed at him. So he's holding it handle first, holding it out like that.
Oh, I see.
Still causes the other security officer to immediately, eyes wide, reaches down and grabs out his phaser. And he holds it there for a moment before it's snatched out of his hands and his arms are placed behind his back as security kind of stiffens him up. You see him wince a little bit as he's getting a little bit of physical activity that he's not ready for in post-op. But he doesn't complain. He doesn't seem to maneuver back to it, but he kind of grins at you a little bit. And without another word, one of the ensigns says, "You've made your point. Let's go. Go." And they start escorting him out of the sickbay.
Excellent.
Without another word. You do hear him grunt a little bit as they push him out the door. They're not manhandling him or anything, but they're keeping him moving.
I'm going to request to the captain
to allow Sorex supervised access to the holodeck.
Okay.
In the future, because if I really want to test his reflexes in that certain of pertaining to what he was trying to do, I'd like security to not interrupt.
Okay.
And I think when I get the nurses after shift report, I will also require a remedial baseball from my doctor.
Yeah. Shift comes to an end. Everyone starts heading back to their quarters, 10 forward, moving about the ship, going, Ox crew starting to wind down. You can start to feel, Exio, that the crew is getting a little stir crazy. It's not just that they're in this nebula. It's that a lot of them are aware they're in this nebula because they're hiding from somebody outside the nebula. Not all the crew knows exactly what's going on, but it's enough that the Ox crew has begun to talk. There's a lot of the scuttlebutt is that there's some super secret Romulan weapon and the captain's being super clever about evading it. And that has led to a lot of conversation about how long are we going to be in the nebula? I don't know. There's a lot of cabin fever, if you can imagine, on a starship sitting inside this nebula.
Quick clarification. Are we still in the, quote unquote, sort of calm section?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Vryn has kept you all there.
Are we literally at a standstill?
No, Vryn has basically charted a course, so the Ross is kind of
doing
a slow circle inside.
Oh no!
I mean, the alternative is to continue wandering deeper and deeper into the nebula.
No, of course. I just mean that is Exio just sort of thinking oh no, we're literally making this crew walk around in circles.
Yes.
With no new tasks other than to.
The good news is it's bump free is the good news.
Does this contextualize searching for nebula life forms?
Oh
yeah.
Oh man.
I get it. That the oh no is getting the captain joke now and being shoot, okay. Gotta take the edge off. Okay.
Lots of people gathering in 10 Forward this evening.
Can I? Dang it.
Consider it danged.
There. All right. It feels inappropriate to look for another holiday because.
I mean,
I've told you there's always setting fires.
I know. What is the actual status on the goose? Is there an actual goose?
There is an actual goose, yes.
There is an actual goose. Okay.
It is a holographic goose, but there is an actual glitchy holographic goose.
This is my shenanigan for the night. I'm going to organize a volunteer-based when your shift is up, you can volunteer your free time for the search party to locate this goose. It has come up in several senior staff meetings now, and that is not okay. And I need to, if everyone can just gather around a task that definitely helps the crew, helps my senior staff, helps my captain, keeps them occupied, they can run in circles on the ship instead of thinking about how they're running in circles in space.
Right.
So I'm gonna be posting up in the pavilion a big sort of help wanted volunteer search party for this
a goose wanted poster.
A goose chase wanted poster sort of, and that will be for later today. That is my activity for the day. Gosh,
and we demand fan art. We demand fan art of the wanted poster of the goose.
Okay.
Everything's complicated. I keep it ridiculous.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, you go to work. What is everyone else doing while this is taking place?
Um,
Because right now, if there's nothing else, we've got.
Well, I know for Lacat, just like as flavoring, I know that she has issued all the ensigns to find those nebula life forms, and if anyone walks by, you'll hear her over her comms basically say, "Adds 50 points if you can find a life form." So she is basically issued as well.
Ox crew is kind of hip to what's going on, so you get kind of like murmurs of okay.
Well, I don't know. I think some people take those points very seriously. Like Kat takes those points very seriously.
Yeah.
It also is maybe how she assigns who gets what like task. Like, oh, you want to work on the project that's about haunted time in Wales? Well, 150 points. You can't. So, there you go.
Where is Lacat? Where does she go after duty hours and everything's settled? Does she go back to her quarters somewhere else?
No, I think she goes to Arboretum.
Arboretum.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So she's on her comm while doing this, and I think this is also how this is where she like is calm, and she needs that after a day of being very focusedly pissed at her sibling. So that's right. You better look away. I saw that. But yeah, she's trying to calm down. She's working on her fantasy league, and
okay,
that's where she's at right now.
The Arboretum on the USS Ross is a bastion of botanical beauty. If the promenade is a social area that is enhanced by plant life, this is a place of plant life that is enhanced by the socialization that happens around it. This place is multi-tiered, like 2 decks basically. Going up with a large opening. It does also have a wall of windows that looks out into space that can shutter as well. This is particularly useful when you guys are orbiting stars, and some of the plant life here can be subjected to filtered solar rays through some of the lightings. But this Arboretum itself, using the same holographic technology that the Promenade likes to use as well, has enhanced effects added to it. Specifically, wildlife. Coming into the Arboretum, it's not unusual to see what would be basically a holographic hummingbird zipping around in between the leaves and the plants, adding an air of real nature. This place is large enough that you can do a full circuit around, like a walk, and it almost mirrors what it would be like to walk across like real woods, except for the areas that are designated throughout the Arboretum hold plant life from across the sectors of Starfleet, all across the Alpha and Beta quadrants. Plant life here is being subjected to some of the most incredible manipulation of environmental technologies to allow them to be able to sustain and grow. This is a very calming place. And then it's not unusual to see the occasional bee or other like non-terrestrial insect or avian flying through here, giving that much more atmosphere to the place. You do see a couple of people who have exited their duty shift walking by, but for the most part, the Arboretum, when it comes to the Ox crew, and indeed anybody coming to the Arboretum, many people treat this place much like we might treat the library. People just instinctively are quiet as they move through the Arboretum. You do see some of the science staff, other botanists like yourself, moving through, caring for the plants and running scans. A few of them are using some of the technologies that you remembered using back at Starfleet Command right before you were thinking about quitting. You see a couple of the scanners that just kind of ring back memories immediately as you're watching them move by, remembering what it was like when a 6-foot Orion came stomping into the room where you were at, along with Commander Rogan, and recruited you to join the USS Ross. Very little of these memories flashing back are doing much to belay the irritation that you feel.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Jane's gonna do. If you want to come talk to, if Olin wants to come find her, that's where they'd find her.
Yeah. When Olin gets off their duty shift, they first go to their room to collect patients.
Who will love the Arboretum.
Yeah. And then computer, location of Lieutenant Lecat?
Lieutenant Lecat is on deck 11 in the Arboretum.
All right, patients. Want to go smell some flowers? And they'll head to the turbo lift and head down.
Right as you reach the doors to the Arboretum, the lights of the USS Ross dim slightly as beta shift has begun. The doors, as they slide open, you see a few crew members walking out, nodding to you. Familiar faces. And on a ship with a crew this big, it's a lot like it was back in high school, where you keep seeing the same faces over and over, or college, where you keep seeing the same faces and over. You don't necessarily ever get to meet these people, but they're familiar. You kind of nod. Moving into the Arboretum, again, it's multi-tiered. It's a big, beautiful, it's like a park taking up this space on the USS Ross. And the holographic projectors in here are running at full speed right now, making this place look like a small nature preserve in the middle of a starship.
Not all of the plants are holographic, though. Most of them are real, correct?
None of the plants in this place are holographic. All of them are 100% real.
Okay, it's just the animals and stuff that are.
Just the animals, right.
And the insect life, I imagine. I imagine there is at least something of an ecosystem in here just to maintain the plants, like some bugs and stuff like that.
The plants themselves are ecosystem, but this is such a controlled space, and it is being used also as a research platform for the botany lab here on the USS Ross. So there's everything, it's a controlled lab-like space.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Olin's going to head in the direction of what they know to be Lecat's favorite things to study.
That would be the small pond towards the very back of the Arboretum, where they have a holographic projection of a dragon turtle in a pond that is constantly sort of like...
What is a dragon turtle? Please describe this to me. Is it
the dragon turtle? It's nicknamed the dragon turtle. It looks like an Earth snapping turtle. It looks like a North American snapping turtle, which... Those things look really vicious. And indeed, this turtle very much resembles as something almost out of prehistoric era Earth. However, it is not native to Earth. This particular dragon turtle is actually from one of the other worlds that have been colonized by Andorians in the Federation. It was not native to Andoria. This particular species of turtle was found on a planet that was colonized.
Yeah, actually, so if you walk up to Lecat, I think that she's the turtle there is there as company, I guess, but she is looking at the
this prehistoric savage looking head just popping up out of the water with its mouth open, and these clawed webbed feet off to the side. The interesting thing about the shell of this turtle itself is it does not necessarily look like a shell. It actually more closely resembles it almost looks like rock grew out of this turtle's back. So it resembles a sharp series of boulders. Kind of like this. It looks like, for us as a reference point, it looks like something that was probably mated in the Jim Henson Creature Shop. It's just big sharp rocks just coming off the back with this turtle head just sticking up out of the water, and it's occasionally doing this number.
Anyway, its name is Bartholomew.
Okay, its name's Bartholomew. Barty.
And Barty is keeping me company right now. But Jane is mostly focused on the plants, honestly. I think that so she sees you approaching. And how's Patience doing in this environment, out of curiosity? Is Patience distracted by the creatures because there's so many? Or I'm assuming she's doing just fine.
Patience is very well trained.
Yeah, Patience is pretty much trotting by Ambassador's side while looking up at the Ambassador.
Love it. Because here's what you feel Jane feel. She just baseline is you have that brewing anger and confusion, and then she sees you and there's a spike of relief, and that's important because it only lasts a millisecond, because the second you're here, that melts away and it's just irritation. It's I have seen you. I have forgiven you because you are here, and now I have moved on to the and back to being angry at you phase. And so you approach, and Jane looks at you, and then looks at Patience and talks to Patience. Hey, Patience, missed you at work today. How's that? What? Oh yeah, you missed work too? Yeah, I don't know why you weren't there, but we had a crazy day. Absolutely. Do you want to come look at the snapping turtle with me? I don't know why you weren't at work either, actually, if that's what you're asking me right now. What's Patience's face look like as I talk to her?
You tell me, Aki.
I mean, Sam is a pretty decent example of what Patience looks like. But there's probably like the fun little head cock that dogs do when they're not quite sure.
Oh my god. On. Oh my god, they're talking to me. This is the greatest day of my life.
Like that, just that knowing
something's about to happen. They're talking to me. Something is about to happen. Something amazing is about to happen.
Really eye locked because border collie, and they have that really uncanny, like they mostly herd by mean mugging.
Right.
They don't herd by biting. They herd with the uncanny stare.
Two muggers just looking at each other right now, and Jane's like, yeah, I don't know why you weren't at work either, but I'll tell you something, I was really concerned when I didn't see you there. But you know what? No one really told me what was happening. Did anyone tell you what was happening? No one told me what was happening. So yeah, that's how I see my day.
You've proven your point, Jane.
Have I? And then she like sighs and like, yeah, you know she has.
It wasn't a good idea for her to be there. I wasn't in a fit state for Patience to be pacing the floor and driving everyone up the wall.
What happened? Why would Patience be going up the wall? Patience only goes up the wall if you're going up the wall.
And I just hand the cat the
file.
The file.
Okay.
With my
Rafe is so happy right now. All right.
I was gonna do a whole talking bit with the turtle as well, but we don't have to do
that. Okay.
I think a paw's in trouble.
Oh my god. They say that, and Jane just I think the irritation, the relief, and everything floods away, and you get like the smallest bit of fear. And I
expedite this. You scan through, and you get a basic idea of what you're holding. It seems to be a profiling dossier on Olin's family, specifically their father.
So obviously Jane hones in on the redacted section.
Yeah.
And
I need to find out what
it says. Maybe we shouldn't be talking about this here.
I agree. Ready to move on when you are.
Jane looks down at Bartholomew, gives him a nod, and says, "Let's go."
Bartholomew says, "Yeah, I'll see you next time, Jane."
Hey,
good night. Yeah.
Love you, bro.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah. Lights up a cigarette as y'all walk out. Clocks out for the day.
Yeah, with your quarters or my quarters?
Either one is fine. I don't think that Olin specifically has a preference at this point.
Then let's go to Jane's quarters so that Patience and Orwell can hang out.
Sounds
okay.
Good.
So you leave the serene area of where you were, leaving the dragon turtle behind. It'll be there for you next time. You guys wander off deck 11, leaving the Arboretum. As you move into the turbolift, you head back to the quarters. You, of course, are seeing a lot of beta shift being more and more active while people are leaving to settle in for the night after alpha shift. You reach your quarters. Doors open as both of y'all step in. What does Orwell do?
Aw, Orwell does not care about his mother in this moment and goes straight for his friend.
Okay.
and is there to greet Patience immediately.
Yeah,
If
like
you've ever-
Patience, the moment they know what she knows which direction they're heading, like she's barely keeping at heel. Like she's definitely like, oh, I'm going to see Orwell. I'm going to see Orwell. There's that definite excitement with Patience.
If you've ever seen ferrets and dogs interact, it's hilarious because ferrets are pure, like, I don't give a damn about my own safety. I'm so happy. I'm throwing myself at you 100%. And dogs don't know how to comprehend snake dog. They don't get why is this dog so tiny and long? Why does it look like a squirrel, which I want to chase, but also it's kind of not scared of me? What's going on? There's this confusion that always sets in when they start to play. As inevitably, the moment you walk in and the two animals bound for each other, it starts off the way it always does, with Patience assuming that she's going to have the upper hand and immediately losing it, and then not wanting to play anymore, and then the two of them rush off into the next room, where you hear yipping as play begins in earnest.
Aww. I love that. But Jane, usually Jane would be charmed by this. Today she's 100% focused on this dossier. And I think that she is looking at this redacted section, and the second the door closes, the second they're out of earshot of anyone, she turns to Olin and says, why is this redacted?
I don't know. I honestly don't. I've not really been keeping up with what my father's been doing for the last however long that section covers.
Because, Jane doesn't know about the threat on your father right now, right?
No.
Yeah.
Olin's about to explain it, though.
Yeah, go for it.
So, I think there's more to... I honestly thought I was out of the woods on this. I mean, I hadn't had any contact with Sorex or with any of that since he got on board. So I honestly thought my part in this story was done. And then he tells me that apparently my father is of interest to the Tal Shiar.
Huh. Did he specifically say your father was a target?
Yes.
All right. And obviously we can't send him a message because that would be raising flags. I
was thinking about sending one to my mother.
Yeah.
Mom might have the answers, but I have to figure out a way to ask her surreptitiously so that it doesn't raise any suspicion. And I don't know anyone who... One more time?
Do you think you could be the target? I mean, you were left alive. Sorex did come after Dr. Wellix. She corrects herself. Dr. Wellix did come after you. And you're still alive. But maybe you were only a means to an end to get to your father. I don't know. I don't know, and I hate that. Jane paces. Jane, can I use my talent, like, suspicious by nature, to see if there are, like, on a meta level, to see if there are traps within this dossier?
Traps?
Yeah, my talent is suspicious by nature, and let me read it. My preview just crapped out on me. Damn it! But it's basically the talent where I can re-roll a dice. I think if I'm looking at for whatchamacallit, like if I'm looking for suspicious characters. Here we go. Let me read it. It is suspicious by nature. When attempting to detect hidden enemies, traps, or forms of danger, the character may re-roll a dice. I want to try and, like, see if I can also gain any extra insight because I know this man. And I would love to use suspicious by nature if possible, but we don't have to do that if it's not applicable. I'll just roll.
I don't think that's quite applicable here.
Yeah, totally fine. That was me pulling stretch.
Yeah. I definitely see this appealing to your Cardassian-like nature.
Cool.
But I don't think it's applicable on this one.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
You want to make a roll?
Yeah, I'll still want to make a roll. Let's see what we can get from that, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
It's just, nothing's quite adding up. He's always just been a very exemplary diplomat. I don't exactly know why the Kalshar would want him, aside from the fact that he is a very well-connected diplomat.
Right, it's too much of a coincidence, which makes me think that it's actually you that they're going for.
1 second, I'm just pulling this up.
Why me, though?
Oh, man. This is like the worst pep talk Jane's about to give, but basically imagine you asking your best friend, like, why would anybody like me, and your best friend being like, let me tell you. So Jane's about to tell you why you're worth being kidnapped.
Great.
Or why you're being targeted.
Sure.
Because you're phenomenal, stunning, amazing, inspirational.
Oh my god.
So tell me next, why am I worth kidnapping?
Beautiful, wonderful, amazing.
I don't know.
Okay, what am I rolling, my friend?
Yeah, I'm actually Rave, I don't see that I have Jane's character sheet.
Oh yeah, weird.
So-
Let me see if I can send. Do you want me to like take a screenshot and send it to you?
Yeah, would you? Would you mind posting that to me? So I can just take a
do
look
that
at
right
her
now.
sheet real quick.
Yeah, I got you. Let's make this super small.
We'll need to
What I
upload
was
those. Okay.
also hoping you'd help me with is crafting a letter that doesn't give me away too badly, because it's not exactly my expertise. And I don't want to blow it on this one by saying the wrong
I
thing.
think asking, I understand, and of course I will. Have you talked about this at all with Dr. Wellix? I mean, what has the captain said? Jane remembers chain of command.
I didn't ask to speak further with Sorex. I'm not entirely sure I want to.
Okay.
I probably should. But I also have no way of knowing if he's telling me the truth or not. He even said he wasn't sure he was telling me the truth.
I mean, I think there's a lot to be learned from the way a person lies as well.
Jane, I think I'm going to have you roll reason plus security on this one.
I'll allow it.
And I'm going to set the difficulty for this at 4.
Oh
Can I
my
assist?
god. Can
I'm-
I, do we have a momentum turn?
I am not going to allow an assist on this one.
All
Yeah,
right.
we have momentum, Rave. Take a die.
Yeah. This is
Okay.
literally Jane kind of having a quiet moment to herself and really digging deep into her instinct as to what's going on here.
Okay. Could I use survival?
You could not use survival, sensors, xenobiology, astrophysics, anthropology, and deep space tactics. None of those will apply.
Dang. Then I only got, oh man, my friends. Oh man, oh man.
You can burn a value to re-roll.
Oh, yeah. Let me see if I can do that.
I'm looking at the values here, and I don't really see how you'd apply one.
Yeah, fair.
This doesn't look. Yeah. This
Yeah,
might.
that's
this,
fair.
this might be a situation where it is just a straight momentum spin for dice, and hope for the best kind of roll.
Yeah, can I? Because I have, so right now I have 3 successes. So if I can re-roll one of those dice, I mean, that's me asking for a 1, right? So it's not really gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There's nothing.
You look at this dossier, and what you get from what you're looking at, Jane, is that this dossier tells you nothing.
Yeah.
It tells you a lot of obvious stuff, like why this ambassador would be valuable to the Romulans, but there's nothing on here that would indicate why would you choose this ambassador then? Like, why not choose? He's not the only ambassador that has links to the president of the Federation. Like, there might be even a better asset to have picked from. Why this one? There's really nothing on here that stands out to you as like a flag.
Can I ask you 3 questions about this dossier that like anyone looking at it should be able to know?
Sure.
So the blacked out text, is it the last thing on the dossier?
Yes, it's essentially the last 20 pages of the dossier.
What are the 2 things right before that, and what are their dates, essentially?
I mean,
what is the time periods between those 2 things?
It would seem that the ambassador was stationed on Earth and had been for some time, and that the ambassador was taking a keen interest in the relationship between the Federation and its allies post-Dominion War.
Okay.
And then it abruptly ends there. That date would have been a little over maybe 2.5 years ago.
Do you know who he was working with at that time?
No, he didn't make any particular mention of what his assignments were. I assumed he was doing what all the rest of us were doing, trying to put this Federation back together.
Question for Aki that Jane would know. Was your father a polite person? So would he send people gifts on a holiday?
My father was a joyous, lovely person who would definitely have sent people gifts on holiday.
Great. So Jane is gonna turn to you and say, I think we should write that letter to your mother.
Okay.
And I think that we should try and see what your father was up to exactly 2 years ago, see who he was in touch with. And I think that there are ways to do that without seeming suspicious. But Jane, I'd like to roll to like basically draft this letter to like, for like cryptography, like I guess is for Jane to embed a message, help.
I think for the purposes of mystery, it's important to tell you that there's no further hidden information that you can gain from dissecting. I know you're talking about the letter, but what I'm telling you is that beyond the information that has been given, there's no further information you're going to be able to glean from this dossier that isn't behind the redacted portion of the dossier. You can definitely ask the mother, and then you can start putting things together. But just because it's so much more efficient, especially in RPGs, to run a mystery is where it's like looking for the clues, and missing the clues isn't going to make or break the game. Instead, I can tell you that all of you have gained all of the clues that you can possibly gain with the information that you have at the moment. And composing this letter is just going to be a
bid for the next clue.
Yeah.
I think that I have access. So here's my intent with the letter. I mean, as a player talking to the GM. I have, like, Jane's accepted that she's going to get no more from this dossier. She's almost put the dossier aside, but she also thinks that her only shot at figuring out what happened to Darrow is through the mother at the moment, because the dossier is just like full on dead end. So it's about going through the mother to figure out who the father was working with exactly 2 years ago, and like trying to figure out essentially where did the father go from there.
The dossier will tell you who he was working with 2 years ago. He was specifically working with the Federation Council on reconstruction efforts throughout the quadrant, and was involved with a lot of the supply management and negotiations happening across the border in order to help relieve the suffering of the Cardassian Union, what was left of it.
Cool. Cool. Jane turns to Ola and basically is like, I assume, though, you'd want to check with your mother first before going to any of these council members.
Of course.
Yeah, you may not even have access to the Federation Council. That's right up there with the president, and those are the ones that pretty much make all the decisions for the galactic governments, yeah.
I think we will cross that. Jane's mentality is we will cross that bridge when we get to it.
We have transporters. What do you mean I have no contact to the council?
What are you talking about? Like, if that's the person we need to get to in order to save Darrow right now, Jane will freaking burn down the city because that's how much she cares about Darrow. But she right now is like, okay, let's check with your mother first. So yeah, she's all in.
Okay.
So essentially, I think what we're going to do then is, I'm trying to figure out how I want to word this letter. I don't know that I mentally have like an actual idea of what the letter would be, but I think that what it essentially contains is, oh, you have an idea?
I do.
Go for it. I'll take them because I want to
know the content of the idea because I'm going to tell you how Jane's going to hide it in the letter.
Okay.
So basically, Jane, like just as a general check-in, because like Darrow and Sala, what was her name?
Solar,
there you go. Solar, we're like so kind to Jane just like over the course of her life. Like every once a month, like send like a general update, like, hey, we're still doing fine, we're still alive, doing great. And that was just her relationship between them. Sometimes they wrote back, sometimes they didn't. But the way she'd like to hide it is that she would like to basically copy the exact format of all the letters she sent, but like have a bunch of inconsistencies in it. So remember that time when this happened, and then like quote something entirely different, and that's how she would like to hide the information within this letter. So what are the actual contents of the letter?
I think that would be like maybe we went on like a family vacation at some point to some planet, and like you're getting all of the names of the people that we met wrong, and everything that we ate is messed up. Like the places that we went, not quite the places we were like that we actually went, and like the times of our transports and stuff like that are all messed up. So it's like this weird sort of cipher gets kind of embedded into the message.
So does Olin want? So Olin straight up just wants to ask their mother if they know anything about this situation, right? Like, why would Dad be targeted? Correct?
I think it's more like who has he been working with recently? What information do you have about what he's been doing in the last couple of years? Because asking directly whether or not, because like my father might not know why he's being targeted or that he's being targeted at all. It's more just like, what's he been up to? What y'all been doing? I mean,
this is how are you? But no, really, how are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Enough to like, there's not so many inconsistencies that it's ridiculous, but there are enough that would definitely make my mom just go, what? And maybe get back at us pretty quickly.
So if you're going to transmit this from the nebula, it's going to be scrambled a little bit. I mean, you guys can give and receive data while you're in the nebula, but it is not a clean transmission. You guys have been getting a lot of, the daily updates from Starfleet, and of course your position and whatnot. That all is being, standard procedure, but it's really spotty in and out of the nebula. If you are planning on using like an emergency beacon and launching it outside the nebula, that is something you can certainly do. In which case, once it exits the perimeter of the nebula, it will be able to transmit.
I can clarify as a matter of security that we are absolutely doing the latter because they could infer location based on our own transmissions. And since the whole point of this is to basically run a secant through this nebula to evade our initial positions before we go to super warp and lose them.
Yeah.
We are definitely going to launch a buoy on out with a with your
So
message.
just so I understand completely, is the intention to reach the other side and exit the nebula, or are you?
No, again, it's just a secant crossing through what would be a reasonable distance. The idea here being that we want to get enough distance where they might not see us, where we can actually open up the lead a bit more to zoom out, and then at the end of our maximum warp and at the end of their long-range sensors, then change course to wherever we ultimately do want to go. But basically the idea here is cutting through a little bit so that our initial course will have lost them when we go to warp, rather than the stern chase we were on before.
Okay. Then instead, now that I understand that that's the course of action, we can easily say that the Ross spends the next few days doing just as you've described until it finally emerges into a small pocket where it can exit the nebula and jump to warp. So as to not spend actual game time. I misunderstood. I thought you were basically laying low in the woods and waiting until the wolf got tired and walked away, and then you were going to jump out and jump to warp. So
yeah, now we're putting brush over our trail before we run real fast.
Okay, that wasn't clear to me. Okay, so what we'll do then is, it's an easy enough thing to send that probe out to the outskirts of the nebula and then have it transmit. It launches without a problem. A couple of other messages also included into the probe as anything that's in particular of particular interest or that needs to get out right away. Nothing high priority or security risk. It would be things like happy birthday and whatnot being sent back home. Messages that look rather like things are casual and nothing is up, that sort of thing. Essentially, attached to the probe message is to hide the rather random message from the ambassador who's transmitting all these questions. So Ox Crew basically sends their mail along with you. 4 days passing through the outskirts of this nebula, almost a full work weekend, the USS Ross begins to emerge finally from, what's up, Bonnie?
Right before right before we get out of the nebula real fast, I want to give something to Lacat.
Before you exit the nebula?
Really fast.
Sure. What do you give?
Like a 30-second scene. I'm going to bring her a little tube and be like, Lieutenant Lacat, I was working with a sample of bacteria and one seemed to mutate. It's completely harmless, but I believe this could be considered a new life form inside the nebula. If you want to give it to the captain. And I'm gonna gift it to her. So she discovered a new life form. It's a stupid little piece of mutated bacteria, but
no, Jane looks at you and goes 150 points to Dr. McCrell.
Congratulations, McCrell. You now get to work with Lacat on discovering the secret of space whales.
Yeah.
I'm like, you have 30 minutes till we get out of the nebula, so you might want to run to the captain, but mission finished.
Yeah, she takes it.
The emergence from the nebula is quite bumpy. Bryn does his best to pilot the Ross through, but you all get a good jostle as you're leaving one of the outskirts, one of these tendrils of clouds. If you can imagine this Ross-class starship slipping out through the purple gases of this expansive golden nebula that scatters across the sky. With a blanket of stars illuminating it from behind, the Ross just creeps out. And immediately, I'm going to ask Jane Lacat to run a scan because you just poked your head up.
Oh boy.
Sensors immediately come back online the moment you leave the nebula. It's the first time you've been able to see what's going on outside the Ross in almost a week. I haven't given you the difficulty yet.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
That's okay. So, yes, you're going to roll your... So who wants to roll for Ross? Okay, so yeah, Ross is going to roll her standard fare, which of course is sensors plus science. Standard difficulty is for this scan is going to be a 1 because of the proximity of the nebula. I'll go ahead and let you keep your successes, Lacat. So go ahead and roll for the Ross. So 4 successes, so gain 3 momentum. You do a standard sensor sweep the moment the Ross emerges from the nebula. You detect nothing extraordinary. A couple of ships are passing through the system. Most of them are civilian craft. There is a Nebula-class science vessel, Federation, the USS Nye, which is passing through the sector right now and is on its way back after a 6-month deep space mission. You also detect on long-range sensors the presence of Starbase 105 and a plethora of subspace buoys for the Federation. The USS Ross also immediately gets an upload from one of the nearby nearby subspace buoys. So ships, clocks, and everything basically realigning with Federation. Everything just sort of like gets a refresh, along with mail. Lots of data messages being passed and forth the moment the Ross comes back onto the grid. Everything just kind of refreshes and starts to upload.
Jane looks for anything for Olin. Obviously doesn't open someone else's mail, but is looking.
Yes, there is a reply.
Great.
Yeah, Olin has received a reply.
Jane tries to just send up a spike of emotion so that your attention is caught when she gets to that.
I'm just picturing what it looks like with Jane sitting at the science station, internally screaming and just like kind of glancing back a little bit at the ambassador.
This is a very familiar game.
Sure.
Olin just kind of goes.
It's also completely unnecessary because since it is addressed to you, you're immediately pinged as the data upload takes place.
Like,
but there is just like
the
excitability of Lacat at the science station glancing back at you.
A, they're not responding fast enough, and B, I don't know if you're checking your phone to see your mail that's just come in, but I need you to check your phone.
Vryn looks back over her shoulder and says, "We've cleared the nebula, Captain."
All right, take us away. Maximum warp. Start setting your dogleg course.
What? So this is you plotting a false course and then plotting the real course. Is that correct?
Yes, because we still need to clear much, much more distance to get out of the range of their long-range sensors so they couldn't pick up our vector and thereby infer our destination.
I totally get the logic. I just need orders for Vryn. So
yeah,
you
maximum
Vryn,
warp.
Maximum warp?
Yep.
All right, so burn 9 points off of Ross's energy.
Yes, absolutely. And Chief, we are going to sustain that for as long as possible. Thank goodness. We have 2 warp cores.
Mm-hmm.
2! All right, here we go. Control.
I know what I did.
Wow. Vryn rolled a 1 and a 20. So he succeeds, but I get some threat.
That's so on brand.
Did Ross roll out of that, by the way?
No, does somebody want to roll for Ross?
Yeah, I'll roll for Ross.
Ross is going to roll her... this should be Engine's Con.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. We got it.
Okay, great. So the difficulty was only 1 anyway.
Okay.
For plotting the course. So
how many total successes did we have?
Hold on 1 sec. What was that?
How many total successes did we have? 2?
3. So
we have enough to mitigate that.
Mm-hmm. You certainly can.
Out of our floating momentum because we were already running fairly high.
Yeah, sure. You're gonna spin those 2 and I can take it away?
Yeah, take it away.
Which is good because this might be the most threat I've had in a while. The Ross leaps to warp. You all hear as the engines power up. And did you have something you wanted to do before you entered warp tech?
Just saying that, Captain, we will not be able to do that again with the amount of power that we have. We can only go full warp at this vector. As soon as we change course, we can't go at this speed. Just wanted to let you know, okay?
Well, get that power regenerated as quickly as possible, Chief.
I'm on it.
good.
Dari looks up at you from the engineering, from like the island and the engineering, main engineering, and when she looks at you, she goes, "There it is. There it is. I haven't heard this captain say I need more power once until just now. I knew it was going to happen. There it is. I'll get to work."
Counting on you.
Dari disappears around the corner, and you can hear her relaying information to all the other lieutenants and ensigns around the corner, just like, we're going to need to regenerate power as soon as we get out of warp, because we're going to be doing another hop. Okay. Vryn eyeing helm. Prawl eyeing tactical stations. Sensors are not picking up anything at the moment.
Jane's still eyeing him.
How long? So just narratively, give me a sense. How long are you guys? How far are you traveling? How many hours? How many days?
I believe maximum warp on standard Galaxy class, we could probably keep up for 8 to 12 hours. Having said that, my understanding of the virtue of the Ross in this use case is more endurance, which will allow us to widen the range by which a slower ship, like basically widen the lead so that we can ultimately try to get beyond their long-range sensor envelope.
Sure, yeah, no, all that I got you. But how long do you want to sustain this course? Because your plan is being enacted no matter how long you do it. I just want to know, how long narratively do you choose to maintain this course heading before you jump to the next one?
Until we reach, let's for security say 14 light years of distance. That feels comfortably beyond, 2 light years beyond our own long-range sensors, and frankly, I feel sanguine that ours are better. Nonetheless, we have 2 light years of headroom, and by that time, I will hopefully have interviewed Sorex to have a better idea of where we should then set our course, so that we can go get those schematics for his trip.
Okay.
So that is the story point that we will need as a prerequisite before we change course.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Just calculating this real quick.
9. I caught it and I like it.
Okay. Okay. So you travel about 3 days, 14 light years, warp 9, roughly 3 days. What's that?
9.8, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, Ross is flying like a bat out of hell right now. Her power levels, by the way, at warp, with 2 warp cores in particular, you can regenerate power as you are traveling. So why don't we do this? Before we jump into the next scene, let's have Chief Tech make a roll, and you are going to be assisted by Ensign Dari, who has been coordinating the engineering teams to make sure that the USS Ross, it's not, Xander, Tech is aware, it's not so much the juice. The Ross has an enormous amount of power.
Right.
The problem is distributing that power, because 2 warp cores, it's going to be so easy to blow a plasma conduit as you're trying to regenerate this ship. So, go ahead and make a roll for me. I'm going to roll for Dari. You're gonna roll, and the Ross is definitely going to assist. So you're going to do. This is going to be I'm going to say this is a control engineering check.
Great.
And for
There's
Dari,
a specific task for this, I believe.
there is. Yeah. Reason. I'm going to have Dari do reason engineering.
Okay. I'm gonna spend 1 momentum for cautious engineering.
Great. Okay, cool. Can Dari do the same? Oh, wait.
It's a talent.
Talent. Can't do it. Okay.
You can still. No, you can't get the die. It's an assist.
Yeah. But Dari does great.
Well, Tech does okay. You got a crit, which is 2 successes.
Nice.
But that was only on 1 die. You failed the other 2, so it's fine.
How many total successes?
2.
Did we get a roll from Ross?
2, 3? No, we haven't gotten a roll from Ross yet. Who would like to roll for Ross?
Aki, if you could.
Okay, so it's engines plus Con, sorry. No, I'm sorry. This would be engines plus engineering. So
It doesn't really matter because I rolled a natural 1.
nice. Woo! Okay. So go ahead and bank that momentum. The difficulty on that was just 1.
We're a
So
top
we have a
off.
ton of floating, so we can create an advantage here. And I feel like, under the circumstances, I would like to.
Yes. Could I create the advantage of maybe sort of like synchronize the warp cores so that it's less of an issue of we're taking advantage of both of them working in sync, and I've just kind of figured it out, and now whenever we have to make engineering rolls, we're creating this sort of in sync motion.
Okay. Here's what I'll do. You can use that to create an advantage, and what we'll do is we'll say narratively, since you're burning that, we'll say that while it's active for the remainder of the game, which we'll be wrapping up here pretty shortly, the Ross is going to regenerate its full power complement. Because the way I would normally do it is for the remainder of the scene, you all regenerate your 2 power every like hour or whatever. In this case, since you're coming out of warp, I would say the Ross, you're basic with the engineering team of the USS Ross, the Ox crew and their chief, you were able to refine the process of what the USS Ross having a secondary warp core was designed to do, which was to keep the Ross in a constant state of being able to draw upon the energy of the antimatter reaction in the warp cores. As a result, it does what the designers of this experimental class Ross starship hoped it would do. And by the time you exit warp at 9.8, the Ross has a full power grid. However, I am going to spend threat and create a trait that after this next jump, the Ross is going to require maintenance.
Okay.
So I'm going to activate a trait, but I'm not going to activate, you know how the Ross has a trait where things tend to break down if things go poorly? I'm not pulling that one on you.
Okay.
But the Ross is going to require an overhaul. Not an overhaul, but like a maintenance time.
It's probably time for that anyway.
Yeah. So
I understand that we have the momentum to reject it, but it does seem like bad sportsmanship.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So we had one more scene. Is that correct? Did you were requesting a scene, Sam? Is that correct?
I can certainly tell you again if we are setting this new course. Though it is still possible that we can take a fairly obtuse angle and continue to kind of do these kind of course changes. The more we do, the more it expands our lead. But I do need to know where I'm going. So
yes,
I do need to talk to Sorex to get it.
Don't throw anything at him. He's not good at catching.
So you're going to go to Sorex's quarters?
We've had the motif of going to,
the holodeck?
To the holodeck. Though on reflection, and given our last time there, I would confer with my commander, but my instinct would be simply to go to a place that is real. Do you have any recommendations, Exio?
You are welcome to use my office. He has had several interactions there that were quite calming at times.
Very well. So we'll meet in the holodeck.
Oh, no.
No.
My
actual office. Okay.
Yeah, my counseling office. So not. It's sort of near my.
Is
quarters.
Exio there?
Not at the moment.
Okay. So this is just between the captain and Sorex then.
Very good.
Okay.
Yes, this seems more. This isn't a counseling session.
The doors open, and the two security officers wait outside as Sorex steps in. Unless you want them inside, Captain. But traditionally, you guys have been having them wait outside.
Yes. I'm perfectly content with that. I don't need that, Benson. Thank you.
He looks around and then glances at you and says, "You only ever call me out of my quarters for something you want."
Well, would you prefer I call you to discuss literature?
It would be a
Hey,
nice
social-
change of pace. Yes.
I'll make a note.
A note. What do you want?
Do you remember the discussion we had before?
You'll have to be more specific.
You agreed to help me plan a mission to retrieve schematics to the chip that was placed in your brain.
Right.
That time has come. I have done my utmost to evade those who would have pursued us, who might have seen where you would take us. If I've done my job, they won't be able to track us, but I need a course to set to know where to go to get those schematics.
You really care for your vessel, don't you? And the people on board are very important to you. Family, in many respects. I admire that. There are a lot of Romulans who might mock it, but they would be lying. They might see it as a weakness to exploit, but they would admire it as well. Family is very, very important to Romulans.
And the most important thing to Orions as well.
The place I would have you go is deep within Romulan territory beyond the neutral zone. I doubt you're willing to risk the Ross.
Then how would you suggest we infiltrate? You did request of me that you assist in planning the op.
We need to take another means of transportation to cross the Romulan neutral zone. And we would need a team. Preferably people that you trusted that could get the job done. Skills similar to the ones you and I have. And would be willing to do what is necessary if we were to encounter resistance.
I think we have both observed the existence of those skills on my staff, yes.
If you can procure our transportation, I can get us to where we need to go.
Any particular kind of vessel, any sort of security that I would need to circumvent? Is a civilian vessel adequate?
No, even civilian vessels are treated with suspicion. Even though the Romulan Star Empire has opened its borders, we would need something a little more Romulan.
And where might we acquire such a thing?
I may know of a place, but I can't be sure if it's still there. Are you familiar with a world called Nimbus 3?
Is Sol?
Yes, Nimbus 3 is a world that exists within the neutral zone. It is it is the Mos Eisley of Star Trek. It is a disgusting, like, water hole out in the middle of the desert nowhere. It is commonly, for those of us who watch the movies, it is featured in Star Trek V, and used to be a place where both Federation Romulan and Klingons came together to hang out and be like a junction point. There is a place called Paradise City that exists on Nimbus 3 that was supposed to be this garden spot in the middle of a desert, and it has since turned into a putrescent haven for some of the most disgusting people crossing the neutral zones.
And Uhura does a fancy dance.
And Uhura gets naked and dances.
Woo! Yes, she does. Sorry. All right, I'm gonna mute myself now.
But he eyes you and he says,
Again.
There,
Yes, I know the place.
There's a Romulan shuttle, supposedly still accessible on Nimbus 3. But I can't confirm that. But if it's there, that would be our best bet. Unless you are interested in getting back into Wetworks. And if I could be honest, though I have the stomach for murder, Captain, I have no interest in killing members of my own government.
Nor would I ask you to, Mr. Sorex. I understand the terms of our cooperation. I wouldn't ask you to violate your own duty, and I expect the same. Very well. I'll set a course for Nimbus 3.
If you take the Ross to Nimbus 3, you will be giving us up. No, we should take a shuttle, some long-range craft of some kind.
Once we're a touch closer, yes. There's warp speed to consider. And then we will send the Ross herring off on a wild... We'll send the Ross away. And let Mendak chase that for a while.
You see he looks troubled as you say the name Mendak again.
Why does he want you so badly, Sorex?
I can't remember. All I know is that he is one of our greatest warriors. He commands the respect of the Romulan Star Empire. He is a true patriot and someone I feel a sense of admiration for. I don't know why he wants me. I don't know what I mean to him. Perhaps when my memory returns, I'll hold some key piece of information he needs, or maybe I know something that I don't realize I know.
Or something that we missed.
He's feared, not for cruelty, for his genius.
Would he ally with Sela?
I don't know. I don't have that much of a memory. I only have feelings, thoughts. If Sela were raw ambition, Mendak would be a true patriot. He commands the respect of the entire Navy. And Sela divides us. But if Sela has convinced him that she is the future, he might ally with her, yes. I simply wonder how many of my fellow Romulans know that this is the case. He is not Tal Shiar.
It is strange to be on the outside of all of this. I'm not used to knowing so little about the goings-on. The perks of retirement, I suppose.
I find it liberating. Not questioning every move, not trying to anticipate every piece on the board, not wondering about every motivation, not distrusting everybody I see. I would be mocked for my naivete, but the truth is, while I am bred for it, while I am good at it, on this side of it, I see now, spending all this time among you humans and Orions and Vulcans and holograms. I was fulfilling the role of a loyal Romulan soldier, but I wasn't really alive. Not really. I enjoy not being an instrument. Sela would turn the Romulan Star Empire into her instrument.
And who would oppose her?
Members of the Senate, those who have inherited the role since their colleague's death at the hands of Praetor Shinzon. People who believe in the rights of Remans. Sela is a traditionalist. She thinks the Remans should return to their place as servants and slaves. She is an avid believer in reunification and the conquest of Vulcan. Anybody who has a more progressive school of thought, Captain, anybody who wants a future for the Romulan Star Empire, as opposed to digging deeper into our paranoid and xenophobic past, to the false promises that we are inheritors of the galaxy. After everything we've seen, those who are wise enough to break free of the fear that is based in their deeply conservative mindsets, anybody opposed would be opposed to Sela. And my suspicion is, with the weakened state of the government, that they are more numerous, simply afraid to speak up because of the Tal Shiar.
Then may true Romulan patriots lend them strength, Mr. Sorex.
We will see. The two of you stand apart from each other in silence, letting that settle in. There's more than a few things that he has said to you, Captain Sull, that remind you so much of the devastating struggles of the Orion people and how locked they are in a cultural mindset that keeps them believing that they're powerful, but truly at the whims of the galaxy. And how they've kind of devoured themselves in the process. It may be on a different scale and it may look completely different, but it's the same monster. And as we cut away, we see Ambassador Olin Majanil opening mail in their quarters. And the moment the text file opens, Ambassador, you see the text file immediately blinks and blips out. And it is immediately replaced with the animation that says establishing link, which a beat later, it says transmission established. And flashing onto the screen, you see the face of your father in a live connection direct from Starfleet Command under an encrypted channel. His face just appears.
Hello, Papa. Not who I was expecting to see.
Olin, it's time to talk.
Yeah, just go ahead
and
say
that
it.
is where we have to leave tonight, as we've gone 16 minutes over. But that is the good news. Is there are 31 days in this month, which means we get another game of Clear Skies next week before we hand it off to our Klingon crew to see what they've been up to. Oh boy, this episode was fraught with guessing and second guessing and triple guessing and quadruple guessing and unveiling and uncovering and trying to unwind all of these tangled webs.
And throwing things.
And throwing horgons violently.
Look, it was just a test. I'll know better next time.
McCrell, you need to start a band called Throwing Horgons. That's what this means. That's
the
essentially
cover of my Daft Punk cover.
If there's ever a piece of fan art made, please make it of the throwing horgons.
Cat!
I mean, speak for yourself. I'm about to go make a wanted poster of a goose.
Cat.
Have a good night, y'all.
Y'all, you do that. I'm gonna go make an image of a dragon turtle smoking a cigarette on a rock while waving goodbye to the cat.
Everybody has their own art project.
We all have our assignments.
Yeah.
All right, good. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. We'll be back, of course, next Monday night at 6:30 p.m. And don't forget to catch all of our lovely friends who are doing all of the storytelling this coming week. On Wednesday night, of course, we have Call of Cthulhu coming up with our favorite friends from Genus getting back together. I love it when you women get together. Y'all are a bunch of freaking hilarious badasses. And I really want to watch you try to play Call of Cthulhu without cracking yourselves up and crying with laughter as you die screaming. It's going to be highly entertaining. And of course, Bonnie, you and Xander, you all have things coming up too. Is your concert this weekend, or is it?
It's a
Saturday?
variety show. Yeah.
That's right. This Saturday.
Yep.
And then Xander, you have what was it? You have your RPG show?
Available. It's this Saturday, the 22nd. Check out our Twitter, and then Gina and I have a show on Friday at 6:30.
Right.
Or 6 o'clock.
6.
All right.
Pixel Surface. It's called Failed Save.
Failed save. Well named, apparently. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us for our Star Trek adventure. We will see you next Monday night for another one. Until then, hailing frequencies are closed.